see some off the pod here. Enjoy some great alerts. We'll have a grand old time here watching Epic Realms tonight. We love it when we come here. We clip all of the screens. The chat gets kind of trolly on Epic Realms scenes. But that's an awesome part of the Epic family. So let's enjoy the show now and start another hype train. We'll see the spicy chips fly on the most sensational, inspirational, celebrational, epicational. This is what we call the Epic Show.
You like that? You like that?
I did. I like that.
Welcome, everybody, friends and enemies, heroes and villains. Welcome to Epic Realms Presents Off the Pod. It's not a podcast. It's sort of a podcast, but it's a podcast. Welcome on in. Thank you for the sub. It's not a podcast, but our friend and awesome content creator, audiobook narrator, actor. There's just a list of tabletop role-playing amazing friend of ours, Poesworth, aka Bryan Douglas. You can find him anywhere you get your audiobooks. Thank you for joining us today on Off the Pod. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. How are you doing today?
I'm excited. You and I have been talking about this for a while now, off and on, and it's like, Let's just finally get this done. Let's get this done. Let's do it. And you've been busy and flying back and forth and all over the world and doing all kinds of stuff and keeping busy. And we narrowed down a date and we had it and we're doing it. We're here. So
this is perfect, man.
You are Harry Potter today. You mentioned you're in the Harry Potter closet of doom. You're underneath the staircase. You've been locked away.
See, I always thought that, who the hell puts a little cupboard under the stairs anyway? The answer is the British. They really do. They actually have a little closet. So this stairs, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, I am in the closet, but I'll be out of the closet.
Out of the closet? So, are you going to hear when people are like going up and down the stairs? Or are we going to be sitting here and all of a sudden we'll just, every time we hear that, just pause? We're already trying to get a spicy train going. We haven't even told them what you're doing. We haven't even told them that you're participating in the spice train. Closet of Doom. Are you still in England? Yes, Harissa, he is still in England. And Harissa says, hello, Poe, with big exclamation marks. They miss you.
Hello. Yeah, actually, she and I actually met in Texas. Hype train. We're already.
This is the Hype Train song, too. You're a fan of Spaceballs. This is not what I didn't expect that to happen so quickly. So, guys, just for those that don't know who are new in here, this and our intro song, the Muppets intro song, was sang by the wonderful Lyric Loss.
That man on the bottle of Captain Morgan. That man was a legend.
He was not a legend because he's Captain Morgan. For those that don't know, every completed level of Hype Train that we do, I'm going to eat a spicy ghost pepper chip. And Poe is going to be participating with, what do you got there? All
right, so I'm going to probably start out with this one, which is hot sauce from hell. And then if I feel it later, this is hot sauce from hell, Devil's Revenge.
Yeah. Devil's Revenge. Yeah.
Turn it up.
So I'm just
turn it up.
Toasty Toasty says, you want me to eat some too? I'm just hungry. Toasty Toasty says no taste buds. He likes spicy stuff.
So I'm gonna put it on.
All right. Well, we're not quite. We haven't finished level 1 yet, so we'll see what happens. Although we're gonna get close. I'm sure we'll hit at least 1. You did resub, but it didn't make the noise for us. So that was during the starting soon screen, and I had the alerts turned off during the starting soon screen. My apologies. My apologies.
Epic Realms
But
can go fuck himself.
What? That's on there? I thought that got turned off. Well,
that's pretty awesome, though.
See, spiciness. Pose was asking me earlier, like, what's the word level? What's the like? How bad of language? I'm like, I don't care. Like, this is off the pod. It's not on the pod.
Right.
It's off the pod.
Right. Yeah, I had these horrible visions of me just like dropping an F-bomb in the middle of our conversation. You'd be like, wait, I'm going to edit that out later. Because that's happened, actually.
We have completed level 1. We haven't even started the show, and we're already at level 1. So we've completed level 1. That's a spicy chip. Here we go. Ready?
So I got that going.
Oh.
Which is nice.
Nope. Here's the thing. I tell people this all the time, Poe. The chip is delicious. The spice is hot. Oh.
Why is the rum always gone?
Oh, it's gone because I drank it. It's gone because I drank it all. No joke. The rum guy isn't even drinking rum tonight. Yeah, do you have rum? What do you have in there?
This is actually a Kraken rum coffee flavor. It's like a coffee liqueur that I mixed in with my coffee.
Okay, I know what Kraken rum is. It's the one rum. It's a spiced rum that's like a middle shelf spiced rum that I actually like, but I can't drink.
Oh no!
I don't mind it. Yeah, but they add a lot of sugar and additives after the distilling process, so it messes with my celiac. I'm currently doing a Shield Egg Scotch, which I'm not a big Scotch person, but I don't mind this one. I stole it from my wife. It's a 12-year. Woo! Woo! Oh, that's spicy. That's a spicy chip. Spicy meatball. All the trolling and all the spice. How are you doing, Poe? How is it for you? How's your spice level?
I certainly probably I held back just a little bit on how much the hot sauce I put on there, so I'm actually in a good place right now. Next time I'm gonna if you all in the next 3 minutes get that to level 2, I'm definitely gonna put a bigger drop.
Bigger schmear. Is that the phrase? A schmear?
Yeah, schmear. Like, I have to at least challenge myself a little bit.
Right. Give yourself a little bit of that heat.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Is that a front of the mouth heat or a back of the mouth heat?
That is tongue. It's just tongue right
tongue?
now.
Okay. This is like back of the back, middle to back of the roof of the mouth, and then like the middle to back of the tongue heat. The front of the tongue doesn't notice it as much for me.
This is pretty much front. This is pretty much front.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's an amazing rum. Talia likes the rum. Welcome in.
Yeah. That's actually so when Talia finishes writing a book, she actually has a black cherry Kraken that is her I finished a book. We're gonna have like a celebration drink. That is her celebration drink. Is Kraken.
Okay. Nice. So you're having one every other night? Is that what it is? One every other night or something?
Pretty much.
Because she's pumping out books left and right, which is awesome. It's awesome.
She's only at 104 books that she's finished writing.
It's great.
It's insane.
I'm watching. I'm like, I remember when she was on the show and had this many out, and I'm like, well, there's way more now. and that's been less than. By the way, guys, Talia Beckett, go check out that podcast interview. It's actually one of the top 3 most viewed YouTube videos I've got. I think top 3 or 4 most viewed YouTube from all of the podcasts that I've uploaded to YouTube. Mm-hmm. It's one of the top viewed video episodes from the podcast on there. So maybe it's because of the awesome cosplay.
Talking to her. Right? Yeah, because she had the whole
cosplay get up. But
yes,
I'm not that fast, and it's only 103. Only 103.
Only 103. No, she okay. So this is totally probably should be topic later, but she had a book come out on December 4th. Mm-hmm. December 7th, a different book.
From a different series, right? From a different series?
Different series.
Yeah.
and she had a box set, the complete box set of 12 books that she wrote earlier this year that released today.
Wow.
So she had three releases. That book finally launched that I complete. Yeah. So she finally, the character that she was dressed as,
Mm-hmm.
Artemisia,
Shiny new book
that
cover.
book.
For the
Look, there's a
one of the
picture right
books I'm
there. There's a
working
picture of one of the books on the clip.
The cover has been designed.
Yes.
I thought I'd-
That's actually the book that came out on the 7th.
That's awesome.
That was, yeah. So, you know. Okay, I just saw the hype success.
We finished level 1. We got to level 2. We didn't finish level 2, so we are not eating another one. But you know, this is a 3. Little late, but thank you, Toasty. This is a 3-ish hour show, so who knows if that'll come back to haunt us. I'm not gonna talk smack about the hype train quite yet, because they can always come back and bite us in the backside later on. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, they're gonna get us.
Thank you, everybody, for the hype train. Welcome on in to the ridiculousness that is Off the Pod. Again, for those that have just joined us, I'm joined by Poesworth, aka Bryan Douglas. He does audiobook narration, acting, voice acting, tabletop role playing. You did a little producing, right, too, for Twitch? Did you work a little bit for the Gilded Mimic stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know exactly
kind of
what the roles were
helping
there.
on the production side of that. I also do like lighting design, set design, sound design for stage theater.
That's crazy and awesome. I appreciate you being here, guys. Poesworth has been a member of this community for a very long time, always popping in and making sure people are staying awesome, right? That's the phrase.
That's right. Keep being awesome.
Being awesome.
That's right.
So,
oh, look, Dilly.
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 Hello, Dilly. Dilly's birthday is either coming up or just happened or is happening, or I know he's got a birthday because he has a birthday somewhat near mine, so that's how I remember.
Yes.
But I don't ever remember
15th?
exactly what day it was. So
I'm guessing 15th.
Birthday is coming up. What's that?
Oh, 14th.
14th? 14th.
14th.
There we go. The 14th.
I was a day off.
Happy birthday to the Dilly, whatever that happens to be. So we've got all kinds of awesome topics, and I know we sat there and we chatted, and you're like, hey, whatever, and I'm like, well, we've got a lot of these crossover interests, and I was like, well, of course we got to talk something role playing wise. We can't not.
Right.
And I was like, we both are theater people, right? Like I grew up doing theater stuff. I love theater stuff. You're still doing theater stuff.
Right.
So it's like, well, we got to talk something theater wise, and then of course audiobooks. We got to talk the audiobook stuff you got going on, the narration and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, you know what? There's our topics right there. Boom, boom, boom. And we're going to start off because, and I didn't know when I mentioned this and you're like, yeah, let's do it. I have no idea your preference for musicals or not musicals. And I didn't know if you were a big fan of musicals or if you did musicals or if you did non-musically type stuff and just regular. And I was like, well, but you said yeah. So I'm like, okay, that's what we're doing. We're doing it. So let's talk musicals.
Yeah. So, funny thing, when I was younger, younger, I didn't like musicals at all because I had limited exposure to theater prior to me being about 15 years old. I played football, I played baseball, and I didn't really dig into theater till I was academically ineligible to play sports. And they were like, well, you got to choose something else. And I'm like, fuck. Okay. We're going to do, I guess, backstage of theater. And I hated musicals. Absolutely hated musicals because it was all some of the old school, like Oklahoma and Hello Dolly. And I'm like, I don't like them. They don't hit me.
Right.
But then a friend of mine was like, okay, sit your butt down and you're going to watch or listen to the soundtrack of Les Mis with me.
Yes.
And yes. So this girl, of course it's a girl, of course, gets me to sit down and listen to Les Mis, and I was mesmerized because all of a sudden it wasn't just like these, like old school theater, music was sort of not part of the narrative so much as it was you had the story plodding along, then they would have a song about what's been happening, and then they would go back to the story and then song about what's happening.
Yeah.
And modern musical theater will tell the story through the music.
Yeah.
And so it's a very different kind of aspect. And all of a sudden, I was like, wait, this is good. This is powerful. This is moving me, you know. First time I heard Eponine on my own, like I think I cried like a little baby. And I have paid good money for that musical, I don't 7-8 times for like national tours.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of love that one. So that's my favorite.
Yeah.
But there's just been so many really, really good musicals in the last, 10, 20 years.
Yeah. Dilly says such a good soundtrack. Such a good soundtrack.
Yeah, it is. It is. I have not seen Hamilton live, and I feel like I have been deprived of a unique experience, but I watched the Disney special when they showed that one. And
I've heard some of the songs.
Really...
I haven't seen it at all in any way, shape, or form, but I've heard some of the music. My wife has it, and she's played it for me. And
yeah,
I'm like, oh, that song's really cool. And I've read and watched some of the interviews with people who have worked on the production and the writing and the stuff like that, and I'm like, this is super cool. I can't wait to see it someday. Billy says, do it. You have to see it live. I saw a different crew, and it was almost better than the Disney because it was live. I was 12th row, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it's funny. I know somebody back in Texas who they got tickets to see Hamilton, and Lin-Manuel Miranda was still in the cast, and she went to go see, and unbeknownst to her and anyone else in the audience, it was his last performance before he stepped down.
Okay.
And so he announced it during the closing credits, and everyone was like, closing, bows and everything. And everyone's like, are you kidding me? And so it was like kind of a really cool, big moment. Yeah. So I would love to see it live. But, it's funny because my perception of musicals also really changed. And I did a musical in college because somebody had dropped out of a show, and then the person who dropped out of the show was replaced by someone who like broke a leg, and so they needed a guy who could sing. And I'm like, look, I can't read music, I don't know how to dance. And they're like, just don't worry about it, come on in. And I went from that musical 15 years before somebody would drag me into another one as an actor.
Okay.
So another friend of mine, here we are years later, I did a show with, he calls me and goes, hey man, I'm directing a musical. It's a new musical. It's a world premiere kind of thing. And I want you to come audition. And I said, dude, I don't do musicals. And he's like, no, come on, man. I need you to come do this. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I do not act in musicals. And he's like, well, I need somebody who can do like 12 different characters. Okay, but I don't want to sing. I don't want to do this sing. He's like, oh no, don't worry. You might have to do like a little bit of chorus singing in the background. And I was like, So I don't go to the audition. And there's 2 days of auditions. So after the first day, he calls me and he's like, hey man, where are you? I'm like, I told you, man, I'm not doing a musical. And he's like, dude, you will be here tomorrow. And I was like, okay. So I go to this audition, and I'm like, they're going to ask me to sing. I don't know what the hell I'm going to sing. And I'm driving in the car, and I realize, wait, I've been driving my son, who at that time was like 10, to rehearsals for the show he's in, and so I'm like pulling sheet music as I'm like driving, just trying to pull sheet music out of his little binder.
Right.
And they're doing Annie. And it's like, there are no guys' songs in Annie. Are you kidding me? And I had his rehearsal soundtrack. I had his rehearsal CD. So I am in the car and I am listening to the You're Never Fully Dressed Without a Smile song.
Okay.
Right? It's this cheesy, stupid little segment, and it's the kids' version. So the whole song is cut down to like a paragraph. And so I'm like, well, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to do when I get in there. And so they're like, all right. So I hand the sheet music to the piano guy, and and he's like, they start playing, and the music director and the director are sitting behind a table, so they can't see the sheet music. And I do my la 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 la, never fully dressed without a smile. And I hear the music director go, oh. Well, I guess that's all we're getting out of the singing. Is that? Yeah, that's all we're getting. Okay, good. We'll take it. And so sure enough, I end up in this show. Right? And he's like, and the role is actually listed as character man.
Okay.
Character man. Gotta play all the characters. Well, one of the characters, it's a whole thing about World War I. Right, and this entertainer who was kind of like the USO before there was a USO, Elsie Janis, and I'm Pershing, General Pershing. You're not going to get a World War I musical with Pershing in it, where Pershing doesn't sing a solo. I have not just singing, I have whole songs all of a sudden, and I'm like, what did you do to me, you asshole? So it was fine. We had a good time. The show it went well. And next thing I know, I'm in musical after musical after musical, because I kept getting cast, and I would I'm not even trying to audition. There was a theater group, and I'm like, so I'm the technical director, and so I'm in charge of all the production side. So I'm building the set, I'm doing the lights, and I'm helping at the audition, like bringing people in and out of the audition room. And it was late in the day, and there was only one guy waiting to audition. And it was like, okay, so that this guy doesn't have to do the choreography part of the audition by himself, show me the choreography.
Yeah.
I'll do it with him.
You helped him out, yeah.
Right. I'm gonna. So he's not by himself, right? Because it's always intimidating if you're. So he leaves.
This is a very Harrison Ford story, isn't it?
Choreographer looks at me and goes, "Why aren't you auditioning for this show?" And I said, "Because I don't do musicals." And she's like, "But you did that perfectly." I'm like, "But I don't want to. I'm building the set.
Right.
I'm going to be hanging the lights." I was in the show.
Oh, that's hilarious. I
did end up in the show. Yeah.
So what's a musical that stands out to you as like a really warm place in your heart? Like when you hear about it, it's like that has a very special place, regardless of how good it is or how good, like, acclaimed it is or whatever. Is there one that you're like, every time you hear about it or you see it, or you maybe see a DVD or somebody mentions it, you're like, it puts a warm feeling in your heart?
So, it's kind of interesting because I find different aspects of musical theater fascinating for different reasons. And my son had spent a summer or two in New York doing acting programs and things. And so we'd go see some Broadway shows. And he convinced me to go see SpongeBob the Musical.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
SpongeBob on Broadway. And I'm like, there is no way on God's green earth I am supposed to be in this building. And as I look around the cheap seats, it's me and every kid in and around New York City is in the cheap seats here. And then the show starts, and I'm like, oh my God, the tech for this show is amazing. The lighting is brilliant. The set is brilliant. All the technical aspects are so good. And Squidward is making me cry. Why is this good? And I hated myself for liking it. And And we left from that theater and we walked down the street and they would grab like some, dirty water dogs. If you know what I'm talking about, if you've ever been in New York, it's that cart when you see the dude with the cart.
Oh yeah.
And he's got the hot dog stand and they call them dirty water dogs because you look down and you're like, you don't want to know how long that water has been cooking them hot dogs. Like you just don't. And so, grab a dog and we went up to another theater and we saw this musical and I didn't know how much this musical was going to affect me. It was called Come From Away.
Okay.
And the storyline is based on the day of the 9/11 attacks.
Oh.
Several flights that were supposed to be inbound into New York get diverted and end up in these just different places. And they end up in Canada, in this like little town in Canada. And
thanks, Harissa. Have a good one. Thanks for looking.
I'm sorry, say again?
Harissa is heading out.
Oh.
So.
Oh yeah, bye Harissa. So yeah, come from away. And the whole thing ends up being about how this town rallies around these stranded airline travelers who are like, they don't know when they're going to get to go anywhere. Yeah. They don't know if they're ever going to get to New York City. And just the whole story is just so moving because it's people who are like, my son's a firefighter in New York City, or trying to find loved ones, people who are, these older people who like find each other and they fall in love because they've stopped in this town. And it's fluid. The whole story is fluid because they don't have scene. You don't get lights down scene.
Yeah.
They'll be acting. And then a guy like comes and changes a coat, puts on a different hat and becomes a different character. Now he's the captain of the pilot of the, of the plane. Yeah. But then he takes a different hat and all of a sudden he's like a village curmudgeon. And it was brilliant. My son and I sat there.
That's got to have some good blocking to get all that changing in on the stage.
It is. It's like choreography. It's like we are going to have choreography of how the set pieces move on and off because the actors are moving it as they go, and it just blew me away. And so that one is one that I just fell in love with it. And yeah, a lot of people have maybe heard the story about that, didn't know about the musical. People who see the musical are like, wow, that really happened. And I ended up talking to a guy.
I've read that story, but I've never knew it was a musical. And Curly Girl says Come From Away is on my must-see list.
Yeah.
Hasn't seen it yet.
And it is. It's so good. And we ended up talking to somebody who's like, yeah, my grandma was on that flight that got diverted, and so their families were invited to one of the first previews before it opened on Broadway.
Oh wow! And
so they got to see it in preview, the families of the actual passengers.
Wow!
And he said that his grandma said that it was so accurate, at least in terms of the sense, the feel, the emotion of it.
Yeah.
Some of the details are a little, made up. It's a musical.
It's entertainment.
But overall, the rest of it is absolutely perfect. And it just, so that musical is one that definitely kind of, overcomes me with senses. It hits me in feels.
I did my very first theater experience I worked at was we did Damn Yankees, and I didn't really know much. I didn't know a ton about it, and I was just like, I just knew in middle school growing up, all the cool kids were in theater, and I moved around. I was in like 14 different schools before high school, so I was like, okay, I want to fit in. I want to let's this is the crowd. I want to go. I'll join the theater group. Well, in high school, the theater group is not the same type of group. And so, but it was perfect because it was the group I was meant to be with. That was my kind of people. And so, yeah, my first theater experience, I walked in and I was the new kid in school. It was my first extracurricular activity at this school. And yeah, so I just kind of went in and hung out and learned theater doing Damn Yankees. And everybody was just like, oh, we'll accept you. And at the end of that first run, I ended up being the main stage manager for the entire run. And I'm watching the show and I'm like watching all the actors and the people on there. I was like, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that better. I can do that better. I can do that better. Because again, I spent all these years moving from school to school to school and trying to fit in and you kind of have to play a role in real life to not be bullied, essentially. You have to, you have to put on this face and whatever. And so I realized, unknown to me, that because of real life, I was kind of forced to learn how to perform, how to act, how to get along or whatever. And so then the very next year I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to try out. And I started, just getting roles, and then I still helped backstage. But yeah, then that was like the theater for me, going forward. So Damn Yankees always has a very special place in my heart, because that was my first real working in a theater experience as far as musicals go. But yeah, Les Mis will always get me. You played me that soundtrack, the one where they're all under, I don't know the name of all the songs, but the one where they're like, look down upon us if you can.
Look down.
Yeah,
look
that one.
Down with mercy if you can.
Yeah, so that song, that's the one that always gets me. Every time I hear that, I'm like, there's something about how that song is put together that just strikes a chord in my very soul. I don't know if it's the music or the tone or what it is, but yeah, so there's just and
it's one
Man of
that
La Mancha
sets
is
the
another
stage.
one. Man of La Mancha is another one that I love. I've never performed it.
I have.
And I love Man of La Mancha. There's just something special about that story as well. So those are kind of my two like special places in my hearts. Three, I guess, that talked about.
Yeah. Damn Yankees was actually the first show I did a light design for in high school.
Okay.
And that was kind of a special thing for me. I also ended up in a cast of Damn Yankees 20 years later as the, again, light design, help build set, in charge of tech.
Mm-hmm.
And we're on the first day of tech week, and somebody's parent in Seattle had passed away. And they were like, I'm sorry, I've got to go. Like, I got to go take care of the estate,
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, go. Okay, well, we don't have any understudies.
Oh, no.
So who's going on? And we're talking about it. I'm like, look, I didn't audition for this because my son graduates during the run of the show.
Yeah.
Like, he's got an awards thing, so I won't be here for the final dress rehearsal this week. And then next week I would have to miss for his actual graduation. And so the director and I, who's a good buddy of mine, we end up talking, and he's like, well, what if you go on, and the days you can't be here, I do the role? And I was like, hey man, if that's what you want to do, let's do it. So in 2 days, I learned all of my parts, and most of my choreography and blocking was Follow Katie, which was one of the actresses in the show. And so it's like, Follow Katie. Great. So I had never made it through the whole show without my script prior to opening night, right?
Okay.
And so I missed the final dress rehearsal. I come in, we open. I don't have off book, off script. They were like ready to tape down the script to a desktop for me to look at in this role. And no, I got it all. And I get off stage. We're ending the show. I'm like, yes, I did it. We got through this show. And then they started for the curtain call on bows. And I was like, oh, I wasn't here when they staged that. I don't know when to bow. I don't know when to come back out. And so Katie grabs my hand and goes, follow me. And I come out into the stage, do my bow. Okay. Now we're moving over here. So she's kind of dragging me over. And then all of a sudden, we get to the end of the bows, and there's the reprise of a song that I didn't learn because I'm not in the other version. Like, I'm not in the show version of it. And so I'm like, okay, we're going to mouth watermelon, and I guess I'm learning this one tonight.
I love it. Mouth. That's like the universal fake it is watermelon.
Watermelon. That's what I was always. Pickles and watermelon. You can pretty much say fruits. Just use fruits. And so, do I have time for one more theater story?
Sure. Let's catch up to chat real quick, and then we'll do the one last theater story. Early before we even started, right as we started, somebody asked, which audiobook should I read that you narrated? So if you could pick one audiobook that you've narrated, what should they listen to? Pick one.
So
I know
that's a good question. I just finished one called Blue Jay, but I have to say there is some content advisories to that one.
Okay.
And it's got some sexual content, violent content, language. It's a horror story.
Yeah.
And so that one, it was good.
So if you don't like graphic, hard to read stuff,
and then
maybe
the
skip over.
one I did before that was like a werewolf smut with some sex, and violence, and you might see where I'm headed with this. Yeah. So there is one out there called The Fate Unfollowed that is one of my first ones. The audio is a little bit rough because I wasn't. You were going to suggest the werewolf smut thing because she was recording some of that. The Fate Unfollowed, the audio is not the best quality. It's one of my first
Philip
ones.
Peterson, right?
Yeah, it's a good one that I like. I've got a couple that are currently, like one that's in editing. One that actually is one of Talia's books that will be out early next year. Just got back notes from a proofreader or proof listener. So I have some edits to make, and then that one will be coming out, like I said, beginning of the year. So be on the lookout for that. But right now my audiobook catalog is on the smallest side.
It's all right.
Because
I posted the link to your profile on Audible. So they did have that. That did get posted while I did that while we were chatting. I multitask.
Nice.
Multitask. They're looking up Audible and Libby as they listen to the show. That's where Harissa was invited to a thing, had to go. Come From Away is my must-see list. Just like I said, catching up on chat. I've read the story, but didn't know it was a musical. Redfield says my favorite musicals are Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Mary Poppins, Spirited, and the Muppets 2011 movie, The Greatest Showman, Into the Woods, and the Aladdin original film, and the Will Smith version. Renfield's kind of a movie person, watches all of the stuff. So
nice.
And apparently my mic volume dropped. So let me know if I fix that. What were you gonna say?
Renfield, great movie, by the way. If you've not seen it,
I have not seen it. I remember when he came in right out, not too long after that movie came out, and we're like, "Are you a fan of the movie?" And I wanted to because I love the fact that it was like supposed to be the straight to DVD, and it got such good, such fun audience responses that they decided to hold back on the direct release and put it in theaters instead.
Dude, it was brilliant.
Nice.
Brilliant. So one more theater story.
Yes.
Okay. So once upon a time, when I was a young lad in the theater, and I was not an actor, I was 100% I was a techie. I don't do that acting thing, and part of that was because I went to high school with Neil Patrick Harris.
Oh, okay.
And he already had his Doogie Howser show, and so all these people would like, "Oh my God, it's Neil," and like,
and they still do that. I mean, let's be honest.
"Oh my God, it's Neil." And yeah, I was like, not. I don't get like that around people. Like, it's like this. He's a dude,
right?
I could take him, you know. So Neil was kind of a dick. I'll say that. He was a dick. His girlfriend at the time, Abby Wolf, beautiful human being. I loved her. She was fantastic. Neil was a dick.
That doesn't
And,
really surprise me, really.
Nah. So he decided that because he would film during the summer and fall, and that would give him time he would be able to come back to the school year at the end of the school year. A lot of times it was just kind of like more visiting than being in school with us, but he wanted to do his senior musical. And it was always the spring musical, and it's like, this is my final year. I want to be able to do the musical. So we are doing Fiddler on the Roof.
Okay.
And
Very
he does not
familiar.
get
I performed in that one. Yeah.
He's actually Laser Wolf the Butcher.
Okay.
It's it's high school. It's kids. Like, did he really fit the part? Not
No.
really. Can he sing it? Sure.
You can get who you can.
Yeah, get who you can. And
whoever the theater teacher likes the most. Whatever.
Right.
Because it's high school.
I think it had to do with rehearsal schedules. He couldn't be there enough to be Tevye. So anyway, he's this guy. Now we had a big metal rotating framed set piece up center, and so it took 4 people to turn this thing. We had a stage crew of about 20,
Okay.
which is quite a stage crew.
Yeah, for high school
I
production.
did the light
for sure.
design. Yeah, it's a lot of kids. So I did the light design, but I hate running lights. Once they're designed and programmed, don't stick me in the booth. I get bored. I will not pay attention. I will miss cues.
Don't forget the cues and miss the things.
And so my buddy, who was the stage manager, said, "Hey, Bryan, can you run part of the stage crew? Like, I'll take the stage right, you take stage left, because there's so many of them, it'll take 2 of us." I'm like, "Great, sure. That way I don't have to be stuck up in the booth." So here we are, opening night of the show. And they had decided that one of the tavern scenes where they're like supposed to be dancing in and around the tables, like we had the grand drape would close. They had like a little scene out in front of the curtain,
Okay.
and we're doing the set change, right? And one of the tables, they said, had to go forward of the curtain line because they didn't have enough room between the tables. So
Okay.
they had to move one in the blackout. So I'm standing there with my hands on the table. The stage manager has his hands on the other side of the table. And, we're waiting for the blackout so that we can move in the dark, put it down, exit. Well, here comes Neil Patrick Harris. "Get off the stage, you fucking techies. The curtain's about to open." Now, me being the calm person that I am, having just recently gotten out of football and baseball jock mentality. Now, I came over the table at him. Like, I am, fist is coming for Neil Patrick Harris's face in the middle of a scene change. So the stage manager stops me, the lights go out, the curtain opens, we move the table. The stage manager at this point is pushing me out the side door, and he takes me all the way back to the dock door, pushes me out the dock door. And I used to smoke back then because, you're a teenager, you do things like that. Right. And he's like, "Hey, just have a cigarette, just chill out." I'm like, "I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him." And then I hear the door shut. And I had a headset, and I'm like, dude, you just let me out. He's like, "I know. I will let you back in the building when you won't kill Neil Patrick Harris." And I missed 2 more scene changes because I was so angry.
Yeah.
But then the next day, the director had all the actors sitting in the audience and put the stage crew up on the stage and then basically bitched at them for like half an hour. "How dare you question? How dare we question the technical crew?" And of course, back then, I still have like football body, baseball body that I'm like, and I'm just standing there in all black with my arms crossed, my hair was longer, combat boots, and I'm just staring at Neil the whole time like, "That's right, motherfucker." So that was the time I almost punched Neil Patrick Harris in the middle of a show.
I'm sure he's much nicer now. Probably much more humble.
I'm sure he's a much nicer guy. Yeah. So Neil, if you ever see this video, call me. I'll apologize. I'll buy you a drink.
Well, I'm H. I'm here programming lights. That took me forever. OMG. programming lights took me forever. Yeah, Roll on a Halo also did theater, went to college for theater and stuff. So Roll on a Halo quite knows that conversation. I actually had a similar but not Neil Patrick Harris story. That very first theater production I told you about for Damn Yankees, we was there for the entire season. I was there every single day. I didn't miss a day. I didn't miss a thing. I filled in when I needed to. I helped build stuff. I knew where everything goes. I knew all the timings. They, like I said, my first year, they made me stage manager. They gave me co-stage manager to this other guy who hadn't been there one day until the show opened. He wasn't there at all. And in front of everybody, they're like, okay, Nick's doing the stage manager, his co-stage manager, and so. And I looked, and I was so livid. Oh no, I wasn't. This was why they made me co-stage manager, because they introduced him as the stage manager. And in front of everybody, I looked at the director and I looked at them. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy and where did he come in? Because he hasn't been here one night yet. This is his first night here, and we start the show tomorrow. How the fuck is he stage manager? And everybody stopped and looked at me like I was talking about Neil Patrick Harris, which I wasn't. I don't even know. I still to this day I don't know who he was, because from then on out, for the entire rest of my high school life, I never saw him again. Like that theater production, I saw him, and then so maybe he was a senior, and maybe he was one of those like teachers' best friends sort of things or something. But yeah, even for our other two, because that was the musical was our first show of the year, but our one act and then our fall drama, non-musical, he wasn't there for any of those. And he was so nice to me, and he was twice my size. He was probably 6'3", 6'4", probably 250, 300 pounds, built like a shit brick house. And he was super, after that, he was always super like nice, because I didn't give a crap about calling people out on their shit. So yeah, there's my similar to your story, except for it wasn't Neil Patrick Harris, but everybody acted like he was.
Right. That's awesome.
Lyric says I was in La Mancha. It was a great experience. Played Antonia in Man La Mancha. I love Man. Like I said, never performed in it, but that is one of my favorite. I will never not listen to that story. Saw Les Mis live for the first time this year, touring, an amazing production that came through Seattle. I saw the Broadway, not at Broadway, but the touring Broadway show here with my wife, and it was amazing. It was amazing. It was before the Hugh Jackman movie came out.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So it was kind of fun to like compare and kind of contrast the two of them. They were both pretty good.
Right. Oh, I do have to throw one more musical theater name out there. Phantom of the Opera, of course, is brilliant, and I was able to take Talia last February. We were in London and saw it London's West End in the original theater where it first premiered. That's the word I'm looking for. So, and it hadn't been back in that theater since like it had opened, and it was like the theater was closing. It was really, really cool to be able to take her to go see that. It was the first time she had been to see a musical of any kind, as far as I know. I don't think she'd ever seen it.
She'll have to tell us in chat.
So that was pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
That was my mom's favorite. My mom favorite musical was always Phantom of the Opera. She's always like, oh, you gotta. And for some reason, every time I saw it, I was just like, and this was long after I had graduated in college. She still said, oh, Phantom of the Opera. And every time she got a chance to watch it, every time it came through, if there was any kind of production nearby, she'd go and see it. I still, to this day, have not seen Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, that was the first time I had ever seen Phantom. I had never seen it before, other than the couple of movie versions. My son got to see it on Broadway, but it was not the week I was there with him, so I didn't see that. We went to go see different shows. Come From Away and SpongeBob,
SquarePants. Renfield says, Poesworth, if you had to pick your favorite musical between The Sound of Music with Julie Andrews or Mary Poppins and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which would be your favorite? Why? That's a very specific and not what I expected question.
Yeah. I'm gonna say Julie Andrews in Mary Poppins is like, if we take Dick Van Dyke out of the equation
Yes.
because of his terrible Cockney, like, wow, like that was like, if I'm not British and I was like, wow, I would be so insulted. That was so bad. But it's Dick Van Dyke.
But it's Dick Van Dyke. He gets a free
He's
pass
awesome.
because it doesn't matter what he did. He's still Dick Van Dyke, right?
Because he's hilarious and he's so good. But that Mary Poppins just hits different, you know. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I have so many friends that were huge fans of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. You know, I was born in the 70s. I was a kid when that was still kind of a new thing, and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang just never hit it for me. It was not my thing. Sound of Music, I think, is boring because it's very old school, musical style, and I just.
What did you think of and I don't know if you saw it or not, but what did you think of the Green Day Broadway musical? I forget what they actually call it.
American Idiot.
American Idiot. Yeah. What did you think of that? I saw that and I was like, because I'm a big Green Day fan and I kind of knew the story, and I was like, I knew the album and I knew all of their stuff because I was a big Green Day fan. And then I went and saw the thing because I knew he had said that this was meant to be for a musical. And then they're like, well, why don't we do that? And really? And then so we went and watched, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, I don't understand how this album was meant to be a musical, like listening to it, knowing all the songs. And then I saw the musical. How did I not know this was meant to be a musical? Like, it is so obvious, and it was so well done. And the way they told the story was really awesome. I don't know your thoughts about that. And again, we're way out of time, but I still wanted to bring it up.
Yeah. So American Idiot. Again, I keep talking about my son. My son is also an actor, and he was in a version of that in Dallas.
Oh, nice.
A group called Junior Players, which is it's these are probably some of the best youth performers in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and he got one of the 3 leads.
Oh, nice.
American Idiot. I don't remember the character's name. It's the alcoholic one who ends up on the couch.
Yeah.
A lot. And watching that show with a cast of teenagers was really just beautiful. You know, it's almost like I worked on a production of Rent, and it was all college students. You know, for part of their college credit and things like that. And there was something about seeing young people connect to a story and a message.
Yeah.
And the way that those kids connected with American Idiot, I was just, you know, proud papa to begin with. And then I knew several of the actors in the show from other projects, and I was just like, wow, this was brilliant. And the music was great. I watched documentaries on it. You know, Billy Joe Armstrong ended up on stage in the role of St. Jimmy for a period of time. Yeah. Just because he was like, let's do it.
Yeah. Because why not? I mean, he knows it's his stuff. So, yeah.
When you write it, you get to make those choices sometimes. Right. I guess.
Rolana Halo says, have you ever seen Theater Camp, the movie? I haven't seen it. Have you?
No, I have not seen that. It's been suggested to me. I don't think I've ever seen it, though.
This is making me miss my theater days. Posted that question twice. All right. I've been told to see Lion King and Fiddler on the Roof, but they were both a long time ago. I had wanted to see Phantom for ages. Fiddler on the Roof is hit or miss for some people. I did it again in high school, so I've got a little nostalgia feel for it. But like, I couldn't tell you any of the lines. I probably couldn't think of I couldn't even think of one of the. That's not true. There's a drunk that one of my friends did the song for, and I remembered his little thing when he gets up on the table and when they're celebrating, when the two factions are kind of celebrating together, and his song. I remember that one a little bit. So, but otherwise, yeah. Fiddler of the Roof only because I was in it. Does it special to me? Will I go out of my way to watch a Fiddler on the Roof? No. If somebody says, "Hey, I got free tickets. Do you want to go see it with me?" If I have time, I'll be like, "Sure, why not?"
Yeah. I feel similar. Like if I knew somebody in the show, I would be there.
Mm-hmm.
If there was a big tour, maybe. Of course. Now the last
Raid.
one I will throw out there.
Give us a second here to introduce the raid. Welcome in, Raiders. DM Wolf raiding with a party of 6. Of course, I've been on the DM Wolf show. DM Wolf has also been here on the Off the Pod show. Go and check out DM Wolf. Does Creator Spotlight. DM Wolf, tell us real quick, who were you talking with? Who is your creator on Creator Spotlight tonight? DM Wolf is a tabletop role-playing, awesome person. Covers tabletop creators from TikTok and social media and Twitch and all over the world. So welcome on in, Raiders. Welcome on, DM Wolf. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you. Appreciate the raid. Go and check out DM Wolf, everyone. Let's do a little SO for the DM Wolf. And then we'll tell the Raiders what we're doing here tonight once we see this little clippy clip.
Let's do this.
Oh, look at that. It's the Fallout Tabletop RPG. So there you go, guys. Tabletop role-playing extraordinaire, the one and only DM Wolf. Thank you again, Raiders, for the raid. Welcome on in. I'm hanging out with the one and only Poesworth, a.k.a. Bryan Douglas, who is also a big D&D RPG nerd, just like the rest of us. Also audiobook narrator, actor, producer, stage lighting, just fucking everything that exists in the world, social media, and we already talked about how I don't swear very much, but there we go. You get you're the one F-bomb for the show from Nick. Probably won't be just one. So so yeah, we just got done talking about musicals. We're gonna bounce on over to talking a little bit about voice acting and audiobooks. So and so I know this is something because like since I've known you, the audiobooks has been a thing. Like when I first met you, you weren't doing audiobooks.
No.
So tell us how this came to be, how you kind of got into it, how you're continuing to do it. Give us the intro on that, because as you know, I know a handful of audiobook narrators and I love audiobooks. I've always loved audiobooks. So tell me all of the things. Tell everybody all of the things.
Yeah, so audiobooks have been kind of a new thing over the last couple of years. That's why, when you say, hey, which one should we be listening to? It's like, well, the choices are kind of limited, because it is more of a new thing for me. I started out in technical theater, and by the time I was a senior in college, I had transitioned to acting, and I actually went to Vassar College in New York Stage and Film's acting apprentice program as a senior. So I apprenticed with Vassar College in New York Stage and Film, and part of that program was we were working on Shakespeare. We were doing voice and body not dance, but movement and all sorts of classes. But this program also had apprentice directors and apprentice writers. Okay. And so the apprentice writers would every week create a new radio play, short radio play thing. And I thought that was a fun, I thought that was a fun, sort of a fun thing to do. And I ended up in a bunch of them, like 2 or 3 a week sometimes, for the whole summer. And I was like, oh, that was really cool. That was fun. And then I kind of, you go back to normal life, and I'm doing shows and doing
regular
shows,
theater,
but,
all that.
Doing my theater thing, building sets, hanging lights. I joined the Army. I got hurt in the Army. Surgeries, back to theater, while I also did a billion other things. I was a teacher at one point. But
like me, you're a jack of all trades.
Yeah. I worked at the Kansas City Zoo as an educator, an actor, a lot of jobs. But I ended up connected with a group called the Texas Radio Theater Company in Dallas-Fort Worth, doing radio plays. Started with a Sherlock Holmes episode, like a fanfic Sherlock Holmes thing. And I was like, man, I did that. I totally did that. That's really cool. So I did a bunch of those with that group. And a lot of them were like Space Ranger spoof. Cliff Proton, Space Ranger, and all the crazy characters that are involved with that. So I kind of did that, but it was always just like sort of a hobby project with a friend. And that kind of led to me in the future. I mentioned that I ended up in a musical,
right?
And it was an original musical.
Okay.
Well, the lady that wrote the words, like wrote the book, not the
screenplay, but the
she wrote the dialogue.
Oh, okay.
And somebody else wrote the music.
Okay. Gotcha.
My words are failing me right now. I can't remember the actual correct terms. So she wrote the script. This other guy wrote the music. And she later on contacted me and said that she was doing an audiobook narration class.
Oh, okay.
And if I wanted to take the class, if I would run the microphone and the computer recording everyone's class sessions, then she would let me take the class for free.
Right.
And I didn't know that she's actually kind of a big name in audiobooks.
Okay.
It was CJ, like, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, CJ wanted me to come do the thing. We did the thing. I take the class, and she's like, all right, great, let's get you into audiobooks. And I was like, nah, that was cool. It was cool. It was fun. But, I'm too busy. I don't have a life where I can do this. I'm building sets, I'm hanging lights. And so I ended up in 2018, I ended up in the hospital for 17 days.
Yeah.
Coming out of Man of La Mancha. I was in Man of La Mancha, but I was also the set builder, help hang lights. I was working as a stagehand, deckhand, and I would like walk from the fly line onto the stage to do my part.
Yeah.
Back off to the fly line. And so anyway, I was really sick and I ignored it, and I was ended up in the hospital 17 days. My appendix had burst. I ignored it. Apparently it had been burst for like 3 weeks by the time I got into the hospital. And they're like, wow.
How are you still alive?
Yay. So yeah, no, a couple surgeries later, it took me months to get back from that. So
yeah,
we get into 2019, and then in 2019, trying to get healthy again, and tore something else in my abdomen. And so here you are with a hernia. It's like, okay, let's do hernia surgery. And then something didn't go well with that, because I guess I had torn it so bad between when he took the first x-ray, and because they were like, I didn't stop working. Like,
right.
Yeah, I've got this tear, and they need to do.
I can feel the pain. Like my body feels like I've torn something just hearing about it. I'm sitting here. I'm like, I'm trying to like not step on eggshells. Don't.
Am I still lifting all the scenery? Yes. And he's like, can you please just like stop for a month? So I had my hernia surgery, and the day I got out, because it was supposed to be a 4-hour inpatient surgery, right? And it ends up being, it's supposed to be 45 minutes. 45 minutes. 4 hours of surgery later, they're like, you're staying for the night. And then on the next day, they were like, hey, do you want to stay another day? Like, we feel like it would be okay if you stayed another day. And I was like, no, I gotta go. Like, I have to go fix some light cues. And they were like, what? I'm like, I gotta go to work. Like, no, I'm not gonna lift anything, but I have to go and I have to, get on the board and fix a light cue. And they were like, okay. So no, I really fouled that up. So 2020, beginning of 2020, March 2020, when everyone starts losing their mind over toilet paper.
Yeah.
I'm in the hospital because of, the infection that came from the surgery. And so, everyone's losing their minds over toilet paper. And I'm sitting there going, taking pictures in the hospital bathroom, going, "I've got medicinal grade. What's the street value? Don't lowball me. I know what I've got." So, so yeah, it was a lot of fun.
You know, people are like, "Is he serious or is he joking? I'm not sure which. I don't know."
I actually did that. I posted that on my social media. So anyway, this is a long way of getting around to how I get into audiobooks. I started getting to the point where surgery after surgery in the hospital, between 2018 and October 2021, I was in the hospital 5 different times for a total of 32 days.
Wow.
So,
and then there was the pandemic, so you like really couldn't do theater anyhow. So
yeah, we got shut down. Like, I worked in a theater. Like, I helped production manage for a venue that had 3 performance spaces, and we couldn't work. And so by the time we get out of that, and I start trying to get back into, hanging lights, building set, I realize that my body is done with this work.
Yeah.
Which I say, knowing full well that right before I flew back here 2 weeks ago, I was doing a light design.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was literally in a theater, hanging lights, waiting for a set piece to go in, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, so what day are you leaving?" And I'm like, "No, dude, my flight's in 4 hours. Like, I have to be at the airport in 4 hours. You need that set piece to finish so I can put a light on it." And so, yeah, I like literally went from a theater back to grab my bags to an airport because I'm a dumbass. And you still hurt from doing that. Yeah.
You're not doing another. Yes. So, knock it off. Stick to your your new career. Amazing audiobooks.
So get back to this. But it was hard because I enjoy the audiobooks. Talia did. She convinced me to just give it a try, to just record something and see what happens. And I've been doing radio plays and things like that. And so with her encouragement, I went ahead and tried this. And it's kind of been a stop and start process for me because as I, went through a divorce and I had all these medical things, and then, start going back and forth between the US and the UK as I'm starting to see this beautiful author. Thank you. I see the comments. And so this process ends up taking a long time, and my story is probably a little bit different than anybody else who's getting into voice acting. Like I am this close to 50, and I'm just starting to kind of delve into this, but the stop and start, because when you record an audiobook, you have to have the same acoustic setup, like
right.
that room noise,
chapter 1 and chapter
sound.
5 and chapter 6 can't sound different. They have to sound the same. Yeah.
Right. So you got to sound like you're in the same damn room. And having bounced back and forth, it was hard to really get traction with trying to keep, so there's, I don't know where I'm going with that anymore.
It's hard to not have it sound different. If it sounds different, the quality, it sounds less professional. So it's like if you have a little echo in one thing that just, nobody would notice it if it's in every chapter, people wouldn't notice it. But if you hear it in one and then it's dead perfectly silent in the next one, and then it's not, they're like, what is going on? What is wrong with my headphones? What is wrong with that? And that becomes a challenge. So you have to be able to make it consistent, because consistency between chapters is key.
Yeah, it is. And that's one of the things, like, the Fate Unfollowed. One of the things I would say is one of the big learning curves for me was on that one, it was because it was the first time I'd done one that was 11 and a half hours total, which means that, of course, I've recorded for like 20 to 30 hours and then put in another double of that in editing. And I wasn't as successful getting the audio right on that because when it was a royalty share on ACX, which means I'm doing the entire production side of it, and for the first time I did one like that, it was rough for me.
Yeah, because you're doing all of the sound edit, the engineering
right,
of it.
Right.
Whereas a lot of times they take your audio and send it to an engineer who engineers it and cuts it together and pastes it together and takes 5 clips and goes, okay, this is the best one that works with this, and they build it together, and then that's what happens. Nick, you might have missed my questions. I did not miss the question. I just didn't read it. We're going to stick to the topic at hand for the moment, and maybe we'll swing around to off-topic questions here a little bit later on, Renfield. So thank you very much. I appreciate you for being here and participating in the show. So when you're putting those together, everybody's a little bit different. And so I was going to ask you that. What was the production like? Have you gotten to work with somebody where somebody else now is a sound engineer and you're just doing the audio? Or are you still just doing it all yourself?
There's one that's currently off in editing limbo that somebody they asked for, what they'll ask for is clean punch and roll. So basically you're just giving them clean raw audio, and they'll put all the mastering and all that to it. So I have one that is currently in editing, but the rest of them I do myself. I have done by myself.
Is that easier or harder? Do you prefer doing it yourself, where you like have control over that, or would you rather you have other people doing all of it and then waiting till it comes out and being like, oh?
No, I would so much rather just walk into a booth and be like, boom, there you go, and walk away.
Right.
Send me my check. Like I the editing part of it is my least favorite part of the process.
Yeah.
I don't have that need to control the creation entirely. I'm a very collaborative person, which is, from having a theater background, theater nature. One of the things I used to tell directors when I was a lighting designer is there's your vision, there's my vision, and there's our vision. And where my vision doesn't support what's in the script and the vision the director is trying to mold, I need to shape my vision to the director's overall vision and what is there in the script.
Yeah.
So and that's how I feel about collaboration in pretty much every aspect. That I don't have an ego about my work like that.
Yeah.
I know that there are people who are so much better at editing than me, that are so much sharper, so much faster at it, that
they can literally, they can see just by the wavelengths, they can see where the edits need to be. They don't have to hear it. You're like,
exactly. I have to wait, and like I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, oh look, there's a little blip right there. That's where you can hear the slight inhale of breath.
Yes.
So
oh my gosh. I know exactly what you're talking. I get that on the podcast when I'm editing the podcast. It's like, okay, there's an there's a so you get that sound.
Yeah, you can always see it. It's that little blip right before the actual line of words. Yeah. So
Lyric says you can definitely tell when there's been a change between chapters.
Yeah.
On audio for stuff like that.
Yeah.
But Diggy says, I'm really looking forward to listening to a book by you. I sometimes have a hard time finding narrators I can listen to. I have an aversion to sharp sounds and hissy voices.
I have, I actually have a couple where I have hissy voices, but that's intentional as a character choice. So, but I tend not to have a hissy voice, I think. So.
What audio program do you use? Did you go and buy like a big $900 audio suite, or do you use like a generic freebie, or what do you use?
So the first thing I used was Audacity because it's free.
It's free
and
it's got the tools you
functions.
need.
Yeah. And then I actually bought a license for Reaper.
Okay.
And I've had some mixed opinions of people talking to me about it. I actually did that earlier this year, so I have had some issues getting that to recognize my microphone.
Oh.
So I haven't had time to fix that, really. So I'm sticking right now with Audacity just because it's what I started a lot of these projects with. So I'm going to finish it with those. And then once I kind of get this round of audiobooks kind of out the door, I will look at Reaper again to try and figure out why it's not registering my microphone correctly.
Yeah. Is it one of those things where you can like record it in Audacity and then transpose the audio over to the other program for the editing portion?
You know, I thought about that. So here's another thing about me that's kind of different. Like I said, I'm almost 50, and my knowledge of computers is really limited.
Okay.
So, like, if you get an email from me and it doesn't say sent from Brian's iPhone, it's not from me. It is spam. Just get rid of it.
Okay, hold on. Let me delete those. Ban.
Right.
Just kidding.
Hot singles in your area from Brian. Hey, check out these pics.
You mean that wasn't you? Okay.
So yeah, one of my funniest things that happened to me, I was working in a scene shop at a community college by my house, and I got a call, and it was this guy who was like, "Oh, I need to talk to you because your registration for Windows has expired, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Really? You're gonna try this with this guy? Okay, go. Oh, really? I don't really. You think I? Oh, yes, it's very, very bad. We need to get in touch with you and talk to you about this." And I'm like, "I don't have a computer." And he's like, "What?" "I don't have a computer. I don't use them." Yeah. Tell me again that I have a problem with my Windows expiration because I don't have Windows.
Right.
So, the only like computer class I ever had, I had one in college, and so the teacher, professor, she had started out as like a typing teacher in high school, typing, back in the 60s and 70s.
Typewriters.
And she was getting ready. I think she was getting ready to retire. And so about a month into the course, she asked if anyone in the class was a December graduate, which, of course, is unusual. Most people graduate in May. I did some mistakes, switched schools, blah, blah, blah. I'm a December graduate. And I'm like, "Yes, ma'am, that is me." And she said, "Okay, so what grade do you want in this class?" And I'm like, "Ma'am, listen, I just need a C and I will graduate, okay? I just need a C out of all of my classes so I can graduate." And she looked at me and she goes, "Are you dumb? I just asked you what grade you want." "Oh, well, of course I want an A." She's like, "Great, that's your graduation gift. You're getting an A in this class. You choose whether or not you show back up."
What timing on that?
Right. I finished my story and I get a little sound cue. Like, oh, my.
The timer ends. We get the music right on cue, almost as if it was intentional.
Right.
Wait. I got something for this. I don't use my sound effects very often, but there you go.
Nice. So yeah, this teacher basically gives me an A and tells me I don't have to come again. So I don't. Like, I popped in like once or twice to visit a buddy of mine in the class.
Yeah.
Who was actively showing me, proving to me that anything that can be made into sexual content is on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
If you can think of it, it's out there. And I was like, come on. And he's the one who actively would, in the computer lab, download things to show me and I would be like, I did not need to see this today. Like, I don't know who you think I am, that you thought I needed that in my life, but I don't.
Back in the AOL. Yeah.
It's so like I did nothing in that class. So I never learned how to use computers. So for me, and even doing like audio and things like that, I learned how to mix live audio on an analog soundboard.
Same.
So for me, the computer end is definitely the hard part, because I just don't.
Do you have the ones where you had the two little dials and they had the little knobs and you had to like turn them?
Right.
That's what we had in radio. Yeah, for radio when I went to for broadcasting.
Oh my god, yeah, because I did college radio too. Like we had these little carts, like this, and I learned how to splice reel to reel.
Yeah,
that's how old I am. I actually, for theater sound effect, I learned how to splice reel to reel, and you put little tape and you put little colored marks so you knew which cue was which, and you kind of like get to the tape mark and then quarter turn back, so then it would. Yeah. No, I
just a little scotch tape.
Just a little scotch tape. Somebody knows what I'm talking
about. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I've actually been thinking. So I've had the thought for a while now, since I started doing the podcast and working on that. And I'm like, I've kind of started getting this set up for audio. And I told you this a little bit earlier, because we talked about you're in the Harry Potter closet, and I've got. It's not a Harry Potter closet, but I got a closet behind me there that I've been thinking about turning into a room to do audio and do voice work. And so I've been thinking about that as well myself. So I'm like, excuse me, the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, man, really, maybe I should follow through, but I've got so many irons in the fire that it's like, well, that's one that's just going to probably sit over here somewhere on the back. And I'll grab that one when I, don't have 3 more to throw into the fire between now and then. Excuse me. So yeah. Okay. Renfield's asking again, now that we're between subjects, what are your thoughts on the Batman animated series with the voices of Mark Hamill and the late Kevin Conroy compared to Seth MacFarlane for Family Guy, American Dad, and Dan Castellaneta as the voice of Homer Simpson? So he's basically just throwing us some animated voice actors, and our thoughts on them. And yeah, rest in peace, Kevin Conroy, who is Batman. Yeah. Kevin Conroy is Batman. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. My son, big Batman fan, just idolized that guy, because he is the voice I hear if you say Batman. Because he's brilliant. Mark Hamill is brilliant.
He is. And everything.
Brilliant.
Yeah. He does so many, like, if you look up his animated credits, you have no idea how many animated credits he has under his belt. We had Scott Innes, who does the voice of Scooby-Doo, on the podcast recently, and he talked about they did a Scooby-Doo movie that he was in, and it was his first big production, and he was doing Scooby-Doo, and Mark Hamill was on it, and he tells the story on the podcast about how he got in a little bit of trouble on the thing, and Mark Hamill whispers like, welcome to showbiz, kid, or something like that. He told this really great story about Mark Hamill on this movie that he did, the Return to whatever island. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was this great story that he told of Mark Hamill. And a little side note, I had an email out. I invited Kevin Conroy to be on the podcast a couple of years ago, and I had an email out to them. And I got a response back that Kevin wasn't scheduling anything because he had been feeling ill for the last month or two. And that was the response email that I had gotten back. It was, from whoever was doing all of his, responding for him or whatever. And then, of course, it was like 3 months later he had passed away. So,
wow.
I felt really sad that A, I couldn't get a chance to talk to Kevin Conroy, and B, that, like, I knew before the world knew. And so it was, and I never said anything. This is the first time I've said anything about it, but yeah, it's kind of sad. I love Kevin Conroy, and I really wished he would still be around because he's like such a good human being as well. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, Beck Diggity had mentioned this, and we can talk about it a little bit, and we'll probably mention it at the end of the show as well. Do you have your own like a website or a way that we can follow you, or we can find your releases and all that? And we just did get done talking about your amazing computer skills.
Right. So right now there is not a website that you can use that will track. It is something that I need to. It's on the list. it's on the list. You can follow my newsletter. No, I don't have a newsletter.
So here's the thing: if you're on Audible and you can follow content like creators on Audible. So if you're on Audible, you can follow him on that link that I just said, and you can click on the name, and then you can have it set as a person you follow, and then when they have new stuff that comes out, you can just click on it and find it. And I believe that Audible, if you opt into their email things, Audible will send you an update as well when they have a new book on there. So there you go. There's my expertise. Knowledge.
Thank you for helping me with that.
You're welcome. And now you know for everybody else that asked you. He needs a newsletter. He's been helping with mine, so he should have it. That's right. You should have your own.
I write her newsletter for her as an author, and I don't have my own. You can follow me on Instagram, which is Poesworth. I will be getting back into streaming on Twitch as Poesworth in the new year, and both of those will be places where I will likely put, like, hey, check this out, it's up now.
Yay!
So that's yeah, that's.
Here's a clip.
Cause if I did, I wouldn't suck like this. I wouldn't suck. I wouldn't.
Do you remember this at all?
I was playing Warframe and I had died over and over and over. And so yeah, no, I definitely sing to myself while I suck at games.
Same here. Usually I don't even know, and I'm not, I wasn't in a lot of musicals. I'm not like you, who's like this musical genius from what we understand.
yeah. So yeah, no, when I stream games, you're not gonna watch me because I'm good at them.
No,
that's
none of us.
Let's just say that. Like I'm going to throw that out there right now. You don't watch my content because I'm good.
So okay. Do you want a suggestion? You want a thought? You want a thought out of my brain?
Yeah.
Right here. All right.
Thoughts.
You talk with your authors that you're working with, right? And you say, hey, can I live stream my recording of your audiobook? And then you don't interact or anything. You just sit there and you just do your work, and you just have the stream on while you're doing it.
I actually, I actually know.
Of course, you're gonna have to get the okay from the authors, but.
Right. So I know a voice audiobook narrator. Several of them do it on TikTok.
TikTok, yeah.
There's some Discord servers where they will do a live video of recording their audiobooks. So that is definitely something that people do. Yeah.
And I don't see a lot of people do it on Twitch, and I'm like, that could be kind of a unique thing on Twitch.
I would have to really look at their terms and conditions of, using somebody else's content.
Yeah, that's why I said you'd have to get the book people, whoever you're doing a book for, and get permission from them to do it. I don't think Twitch is going to have a big issue, but the.
Yeah, right now my biggest problem with that would be that in order for me to stream Twitch on Twitch, I've got a computer set up here, or a monitor set up here, and my laptop down here.
Yeah.
And so when I'm gaming, I can play and have the two screens going. This laptop can't be in here when I'm recording audio. It's too noisy.
It hasn't been too bad today.
Oh, good. You could do it with mine. Actually, yes, I could do that with Talia's because I have easy access to permission.
Yeah, and you kind of know the author, right? Just a little bit, just to have a little bit of knowledge of the.
Yeah, I did just finish one of her books. And like I said, that's the one that's finishing getting proofing, and it will be in the early of next year. And then also she actually has another, because we're talking about audiobooks, she has another one. One of her books is called How to Write Lots and Get Shit Done: The Art of Not Being a Flake.
Wow.
It's that's
hilarious.
Right. It's a great title, right?
It is.
And so I am currently narrating that one. I'm recording the narration of that one. And so that one will be in early next year as well.
That's great. That's awesome.
Those are actually my next two projects to put out.
Sweet. There you go, everybody. There's the next couple projects. And we'll talk more about some of the stuff at the end of the show as well. I need that book. Me too. Right. Guys, stick around. When we come back, we're going to start talking about some role-playing, tabletop role-playing. If you like D&D, Pathfinder, Star Wars, all of that kind of tabletop role-playing stuff, we've got our category coming up after the break, RPG character ideas that you never got to play, but you wanted to, right? There's a big, long thing, but I think that that's something that everybody has. People, especially people who have been role-playing for a while, they always have these ideas for characters, but they just never find the right game to play them in. So we're going to talk about some of those here in a bit, as well as our traditional, now because of our good friend Eric Scott DeBee, had this traditional, this idea that we're now calling traditional, called potluck, where we're just going to talk about whatever the hell we want. So that is going to come up after the break. We're going to be away for about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. You refills on our drinks, stretch our legs, stretch our backs, whatever we need to do. And we'll be right back after that. If you are a sub, then hang out and enjoy not having ads, and you can just watch clips of the shows. And if you aren't, then stick around for the ads. If you're a
sub, what do the DOMs do?
Whatever they want.
Okay, because the subs don't have to listen. The DOMs?
The DOMs, well, they're just DOMs. They're just DOMs. Okay. I mean, they're kind of in charge. It's kind of like being the boss. So you don't have to listen to the ads, but you have to listen to the things. The DOMs can do it if they want to listen. They can. They tell the subs what to do. So there you go. So we'll be right back, guys, in just a few minutes with the one and only Poesworth. We'll see you in a bit. And we are back, everybody. Thank you for hanging out through the break, watching the clips, watching the ads. If you aren't if you aren't watching this via sub, being a sub, or a dom, I guess, in the case of Poe. Again, if you guys are just coming in, if you didn't see the first half of the show, this is Off the Pod. It's not a podcast, sort of podcast, not a podcast, but it's maybe a podcast. Someday it might be a podcast, but it's not a podcast. With the one and only Poesworth, aka Bryan Douglas, actor, voice actor, D&D player extraordinaire. That's the word. That's the words we're looking for.
Extraordinaire.
So we talked earlier today. We talked about favorite musicals, and just talked about musicals in general and theater, and had a great conversation about that. A lot of people seem to like and know stuff about theater and musicals. A lot of theater workers and performers in the chat. We also talked about your voice acting and just voice acting in general, audiobooks, putting them together, how you got into that, all of that kind of stuff. And now we're moving on to the second half, because you've been doing D&D in your life. And I'm gonna wait to start the timer. Where did you kind of get into D&D before we even get going here? Like, what was kind of your intro to tabletop role playing before I even start the timer, because that's not the topic.
I was gonna say we're gonna blow through the timer easily.
Yep.
Yeah, Poe's been doing D&D for a while. I have. I actually 1986, for my 12th birthday, I got 2 sets of the red box edition of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, 2nd edition. So I started playing in 1986 as a 12-year-old with my neighbors.
And were you GM? Did they know how to play? Did they force you? They're like, here's the thing, you're playing with us.
Well, they said, "Hey, would you like to try this thing?" And I was like, "Sure, let's do this."
Were they experienced?
Yeah. So 80s. Their parents were computer software. They were computer scientists.
Okay.
And that was back in the 80s, and like nobody was like.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you want to think about the geekiest people you could possibly have living next door, they were it.
Yeah.
I had just moved from California to Chicago, and having a neighbor that was my age who had an older brother that was my brother's age,
Yeah.
you know, being just a couple years older. It really was, you know, really easy to slide into that.
Yeah.
And then we had a couple other classmates that that were into it, and so we were Stranger Things before Stranger Things was a Stranger Thing.
Right. Nice. Did you get nostalgia watching Stranger Things and go like, oh, that was us?
Totally, 100%. You know, we had arguments over what soft drink had the most caffeine. Because it was Mountain Dew versus, what was it? Squirt?
Nope.
Or no, Sunshine? Sundrop.
Yeah. The Squirt's
And
caffeine free, I know.
We would chug this stuff. We would just down 2-liter bottles of this shit at a time. And, you know, these epic, like 10-hour, 12-hour Saturday sessions, man. And
then he wonders what happened to his appendix.
Right. And this is why I'm diabetic now.
So you've been role playing longer than I have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because we're roughly about the same age, not too far distance. I think we got like 4 years between us. Mm-hmm. So, but I didn't start till high school. So okay. you've got a few years on me. You've got a handful of years on me on D&D. So you've got plenty of experience, plenty of time playing. Did you take any time off, or have you just been playing ever since?
Yeah, honestly. So between end of college to about 2 years ago, 3-4 years ago.
Okay.
I didn't play any D&D. No tabletop. And that I was so busy with things like theater. I was busy with kids. That's funny. You just typed kids as I was saying the word kids.
Yeah, I did. It's like Harris is like 43. I'm like, oh, he's such a youngin.
Puppies.
I look good for my age. That's all I can say. So do you, by the way. Sometimes when you said how old you are, I was like, what? You're older than me? No way.
Yeah, I was gonna say we don't look like a couple of guys pushing 50.
No.
I definitely thought you were a decade younger.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. So yeah, there was this like 20-year gap where I didn't really get a chance to play. I had tried to play with some friends right after college, and it was just never lined up. And then I joined the Army. Not like I had a lot of people to play with in the Army. And I got hurt, so there's back surgeries, and so there's all this time. And then I took in a niece and nephew at one point. I've been married a couple times, have my own kids to add to the plethora of kids. I just keep stealing other people's kids.
Right.
And it's like, you're mine now. Come on over. And so I just didn't have time to play.
Yeah.
And then when I did, I didn't have people to play with.
Right.
And then of course we end up in a pandemic. Well, shit. People have time now.
Yeah.
And that's Had that kind of event, you bring home stray cats and kids.
Stray cats and kids.
Harissa and I actually, she's also from the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Okay.
And so we met at a coffee shop.
Oh, nice.
And so I somewhere I have great pictures of the two of us. I don't know if it's still your significant other. Maybe. I have not. Anyway, there was another guy there. Ex-boyfriend. Okay, I was gonna say I thought it was an ex. I didn't. I was trying not to mention it. Sorry. But yeah, no. So we sat in this coffee shop and we had these great conversations. And then we were gonna do it again, but I've been back and forth between here and there. So anyway, I didn't start playing again until I get invited to start playing with Talia, because she had this home brew that she created, this sort of do you remember our pyramid streams? The pyramid, sentient dungeon, inverted pyramid. You go in on the first floor and it is so it was one that she said that she wanted somebody to kind of play test a little. And so she's like, would you come and do a session? And I was like, of course. Yeah, let's, I haven't played D&D in forever. Let's do this. And I had so much fun. And she's like, well, we're going to be doing this like regularly.
Right.
And I was like, okay.
I'm in.
It's a pandemic. Theater ain't happening right now.
Yeah.
I guess let's do this.
Yeah.
So yeah, and they were always at 2, and I was exactly, because we were playing in UK's evening time, so GMN was always
right
while Americans were at work.
Right.
And no, we had a lot of fun with those, and we had to stop this summer of doing the D&D streams. So it was a good 2.5 year run of playing.
Good stuff. I was in there quite a bit, even if I couldn't be there because of, again, work. I was throwing lurks up and trying to hang out and doing my part to try and be there and talk about you guys and talk you up and whatnot. So yeah, you guys were always.
Yeah, dude, you were always one of our best supporters, and I always appreciated that. So. Yeah.
And you're here on camera with me, so I'm not just doing it to the stream. So, I didn't know how to do this for like my first year of streaming. I was like, because I was trying to do it upside down, and I was like, I can't get my elbows up high enough. What do I do?
Better.
I finally figured it out. So in all of this, and I'm going to start the timer now, a bit too much of a commitment on top of life now, especially planning a wedding. A wedding? Jeez, do we know somebody that's getting married? I mean,
I don't
know. Congratulations, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So
yeah,
when it comes to role playing, there's always this thing where there's two dichotomies in role playing. There's the dichotomy of make a character, play it once, the game never happens again. You go, what the hell? And then you start a new game the next day with the new characters. That's one dichotomy. And then there's the other one where you have a handful of games and you play the same games and the same characters and it's going good and it's not canceled and you play forever and you always have these ideas, but you never get time to make or play a new character. Or in my case, I kind of had it shifted from one to the other, but I had the first half where it was like I realized that these characters for me were never like, I knew that, okay, we're going to play one game. And they're like, oh, I got this idea for a great campaign. Play the game. And then the next day, it's like, I got this great idea for a new campaign. It's like, well, what about the other one? Yeah, we're done with that. So I stopped committing. I'd be like, okay, what do you make for this one? First level rogue. Next day, what do you make for this next game? First level rogue. What do you make for this next one? Third level rogue. What do you make for this one? First level rogue, first level fighter, then 3 more levels rogue. What do you play for the next one? A rogue, because I knew what was going to happen. I knew the game wasn't going to go anywhere. So but in the meantime, in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I would really love to play XYZ character. I would love to play this character. I'd love to play that. Here's an idea, a world concept, a character concept. And And then eventually finally it's like, okay, this is a game. This is a person that I know is going to commit. I know it's going to last. I'm going to give it a shot. And I'm going to make this character that I've been thinking about forever and play it. And then like, it's a 5-year campaign. It's like, but what about these other 5 characters? Or you have an idea that just never fits in the world. So you have these kinds of things, and I'm assuming you have a lot of character ideas that you've never gotten to play. So let's talk about some of these character ideas we never got to play, shall we?
Let's talk.
All right.
Absolutely.
Hit me with one. Hit me with your number one. Like, this is a character, and maybe it's one you'll never play, but it's an idea that you love.
So here's a character that I want to play in D&D. I want to do. Let me give you a little background.
Okay.
In college, my friends didn't play D&D as much. They preferred GURPS.
Yep, it's the first role-playing system I ever did. That's what got me into it, was GURPS.
GURPS, generic universal role-play system. Steve Jackson, brilliant, right? 3 6-sided dice. That is it. That's all you will ever need for that game. And
you can play in any genre and any world you want.
Exactly.
Shout out to Steve Jackson. Podcast alumni, by the way. Had him on the show. Never gonna not throw. You know, if there's somebody that's been on the show, I'm never not gonna say go check out that episode. I'm sorry, I interrupt you right there.
I watched that one.
It was fun.
I did. I watched because that one and R.A. Salvatore. How could I miss those two?
Right.
First fantasy books ish. Salvatore. So anyway, GURPS, like you said, you could have pretty much any scenario, any time period, tech level. And my friends got a what do you call it? Like a game called Bunnies and Burrows.
Okay.
It was a GURPS module kind of thing, like
a pre-made story.
No, not a module. That's the wrong word. It tells you how to make your universe.
Oh, like a world building or a world setting.
Yeah, you could have your cyberpunk book and your fantasy book. This was called Bunnies and Burrows. Okay, and you could decide. You're all bunnies. You're all bunny rabbits.
Yeah. Oh, bunnies and burrows. Okay, I thought you said buddies the first time, like BUDDIES. I'm like, these are my buddies. Now I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Bunnies and burrows. Yep, I know.
Bunnies and burrows.
I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
So, bunny rabbits, and you could decide whether or not you had opposable thumbs or not, or semi-opposable, where you could use paws to manipulate a screwdriver, right?
Yeah.
And
You're not interrupting her. I said, go ahead and interrupt. We'll chat when we read it. You are not That's kind of the point of the show. Like, we just get too into it, and we both like talking. So sometimes it's like we see the stuff. I'm like, I'll get back to that. Let's finish this topic. Let's finish the whatever. So don't worry. Right. You are encouraged to chat in here. You are encouraged to chat.
Please do.
I
enjoy reading it.
And we may or may not get to it immediately when you say it.
We'll get around to it.
We were talking about that earlier, right before we came back. It's like we can both just sit there and talk endlessly for an hour about whatever is, especially if it's something we're interested in. 5 hours later.
Yep. Exactly. So I'm going to get us back on topic.
Bunnies and burrows.
Bunnies and burrows. So my buddies decided we're going to try this, right? Bunnies and burrows. And I created a character. It was this old, somewhat senile bunny.
Okay.
Who was called himself Grope the Prophet.
How old were you?
21, 22? College kid? Grope the Prophet. And so I had it set up with the GM, and he was clairvoyant. So he would get these premonitions. And so I would roll, and the DM would slide a little note over to me, and I would pick it up, and it'd be like, okay. Because he would actually tell me what was going to happen. But then I would do something like, I foresee a big splash. And then I would fall in the water, like fall in a creek.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, ugh, fucking idiot. Like this guy, fucking idiot. And then, so they're all like, no danger here. Old guy fell in the water. So as they start to cross the creek, wolves jump into the creek. And so they create a big splash.
Yeah.
I absolutely told the truth. I just did it in a way that they didn't get the warning.
Right.
They would never get the warning.
Which is how prophecies really are, right? In all stories,
exactly.
That's what it is. That's what prophecies are.
'Tis the fate of the prophet to be heard, not believed. Like
Right.
that is from Greek classic mythology.
Right.
So I want to take that concept because we only got to play it like a couple of times and never got to play it again. So I never really got to like feel that character beyond a session or two. So I would love to get a herring gun, just an old fucking bunny rabbit.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I would work that in D&D. Like what spells I would have to.
You'd have to be like get divine, like cleric spells with like diviner stuff or something along those lines.
Yeah, try and I don't know, figure out something with cantrips that could kind of function in a way that would make it useful. I haven't really dug into the level of like, okay, am I going to have a couple levels of sorcerer to be able to get some things? So I never have tried to put that one together. But when you asked me that question the other day, like you sent that to me, is like, what characters would you always want to play? Well, Grope the Prophet. That's what I want to do, because
you might want to pick a more PC name though. You might want to switch that one up.
Yeah, that one didn't age very well.
No. That's why I had to ask him, like, how old were you? Because it's 2023 these days. I don't think that name is going to go over too well.
That was 94. Like, that was 30 years ago, people. I am so sorry. I cannot go around calling myself Grope the Prophet anymore.
No. I had a character I want to say in a similar vein, but it's not in a similar vein. But and I've been telling this story for 20 years. I've been telling this character idea, and I've never gotten around to doing it or finding a thing. But in my mind, I'm always like, and now people will be like, oh, that's been done. That's been done before. Well, yeah. But the idea is you're playing a character who is fully aware that he is a character in an RPG. He knows he's a character. He knows there's character sheets. He knows the other people are character sheets. They don't know. And now everybody's on me. The first thing they're going to be like, oh, so you're playing like a Deadpool. Well, I guess. Yeah, but this was long before Deadpool was mainstream and that was a thing. And I didn't even know Deadpool was a thing when I was doing that. But it was the idea of, something happens and, the barkeep gets angry at the bard for whatever and, beats the crap out of him. It's like, well, he rolled a nat one on his bardic performance check. Just stupid stuff like that, where it's like the character and everybody's like, what are you talking about? Performance check. Like, whatever. Or, the barbarian freaks out. It's like, oh, well, he's got a -2 on his wisdom saves right now. That'll last about 5 minutes. Everyone's like, what do you mean it'll last about 5 minutes? Then he comes out of range like, I was off by about a round or two, but stuff like that. So it's like, it's in character, but it's not. Mm-hmm. I always thought that would be fun and humorous. But it definitely, you couldn't do it in a super serious type game, I don't think.
No.
So.
No. And I think that's kind of how I have always tried to make characters is I want something that fits into the world, and I will try things just because I love making characters.
Yeah.
I love making backstories. I love. I actually on my tablet I have downloaded a D&D character generator app.
Okay.
And I just files of different levels, of different combinations, of different classes, and I just get in there and like, what would this look like? What would this look like? What would this look like? Some point I'm going to get an air genasi, and I trying to I'm probably a sorcerer, I think would be.
Do you come up with like the build before you come up with the personality and the character concept, or do you like come up with a personality or character concept and then build the crunch the numbers around that? Which order do you do them in? Excuse me.
I am totally a character concept first.
Okay.
I will build around my character concept, and I want it to be something that the party doesn't have, something the party's going to need, something the party. So, once upon a time, I was playing D&D with my daughter, who she's now 30. She was 25-ish at the time, with one of my nieces who was in her 20s, her husband. Anyway, so family, and trying to teach my nephew, who was a teenager at the time. He actually still is, but he was an early teenager, and but they kept acting like jackasses, right? And no one wanted to be the cleric. Nobody wanted to be a cleric. And I was like, do you guys want to be healed at any point in this game?
Right.
No? Okay. Fuck it. Like, shit, what the hell is a first level cleric going to do for you anyway? Heal you once.
Right.
Like, run out of spell slots. But they were acting like idiots. Like, you see a dead horse. What are you going to do? I want to poke it with a stick. Okay. So they kept getting themselves killed, basically.
Right.
They're getting themselves just because they want to be ridiculous. And so I created a cleric, and he was this grumpy old guy. So every time they would go to do something stupid, he'd be like, well, you can go do that if you want to, but I'm going to be over here. You want heals? You'll stay where you're not going to get hurt. And so it just became this. He was an asshole. In fact, my oldest daughter, like, she's like, I don't like playing with you, Dad. What? He's like, you're too serious. You're too serious about the game. You got all upset because we were joking around. I'm like, yeah, because I want to play. Like, I don't want to poke the dead horse. I want to get on with the quest. Like, can we go find
tell a story.
Like, let's do the story.
If the theme of the game is let's have some laugh, then that's the theme. Mechanical Corners, for instance, is a ridiculous game with very little mechanics, and that's like part of the point is let's see what kind of puns we can put in the game. Like, then it's funny. But yeah, if you want to tell a serious story and you want to be serious, then that's a completely different. So you have to know what the players want compared to what the storyteller wants, right?
Yeah, and that's, I actually apologized to her later, because I was like, yeah, you're right, I was a dick. I was a dick. Because, when I...
were you Jimmy or someone else GMing?
Somebody else was GMing. Okay. So, like, when I started out playing, I was very serious about that. Like the role playing, I was very serious about when I would create GURPS campaigns. Dude, you were going to be tracking your food. You were going to be tracking the hours you slept. You were going to be tracking the miles you walked. Like I was like in it, and I had maps where like I had rotating schedules of things that like, okay, if you fuck around in the woods over here and take 3 days, this caravan over here will have already traveled up here, and you're not going to ever see it. You'll never see that caravan. And so, I mean, I was like detailed. And so you were going to track your food and your water. And I realize now that just because I get that hardcore does not mean that, well, anybody else ever wants to do that.
Right.
So
I agree.
And it really took me a little something to realize that it can be about fun.
Yeah. Well, Anahela says, going back to your Bunny your divination. I don't want to say his name. That you could be a wizard that is has a divination focus.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, that's kind of where I was heading for that. I would say with believe the prophet instead of
There we go.
grope.
There we go.
Belief. That's it. Belief the prophet.
Belief. With two F's. With two F's.
With two F's.
Two F's. It's like
Spelled
Jeff.
just like it
it's like
sounds.
Jeff, but belief.
B''LEFF.
Yes.
So, yeah, divination would definitely be the right build for that. I really enjoy doing things that are different with my character builds. Right now, my longest standing character is one that we were streaming on GMN, my Florian character, who is like, that became my main character.
Yeah.
I'm used to, like, I noticed Rolana Halo says nobody wants to be the cleric except me and like one other person I know. I have played clerics for decades in every, like, if I like I said, I didn't really get a chance to play tabletops, but if I am on video games and things like that, cleric.
It's your go-to.
I like clerics.
In D&D,
Salvatore,
I've said this forever. Before you move on, I've said this a million times, and I'm going to say it again. They're one of, if not the most overpowered class in D&D. They've changed it a little bit in 5th edition, but like for the longest time, you get the second best base attack bonus. You get to use any armor you want, so you get the best armor that you want, and you have full spell progression. Let me repeat that. You get full spell progression, like a wizard. Full spell progression. You got like the second best hit points in the game, the second best attack in the game, and you get to wear full armor. How is that not broken? Now they've changed it. Now you don't have now you have the second best armor slot in the game, but it's still pretty damn overpowered. Right. Oh, and then you add domain spells on top of all of that. You get more than basic spells because you get your domain spells as well.
Yeah, I played Dungeons and Dragons online quite a bit in that interim of not being able to play tabletop.
Yeah.
So I was always a cleric. Like, I built every other type of character you can imagine. But when they're like, okay, we're gonna go do the raid, let me log on to Poesworth, which was my cleric, and so for me, this character, Florian, is a rogue because somebody already called cleric. Somebody else had already said, I want to be the cleric. I have this concept for a cleric. And I was like, oh, shit. This totally throws off my game plan because nobody ever wants to play the cleric. And I was going to play cleric. And so I was like, all right, do a rogue.
To reach back in your head, what other character ideas do I have in the back burner?
Right. And what are we doing? These are one-shots? We're just doing a bunch of mini-adventure one-shots? This character's going to die anyway. I'm putting his 18 in charisma.
Nice.
A rogue with an 18 charisma.
Hey, that's a rogue after my own heart right there.
Right? And I was like, this guy's... he is not about killing anything. Usually
when I make a rogue, Dex is usually second or third on the list. Usually charisma and intelligence are usually my higher stats.
That's it. That's where I put my stats right there. Intel and charisma, because
digital high five.
I'm totally gonna talk my way through anything. That's how I want to play this character. And I was like, he's gonna die. Like, he's gonna die. In fact, early on in one of our sessions, it was scenario being, we're in a shop, the shopkeeper's missing, we find that there is a back door in the shop. We follow the shop. The shop has a basement. There's this big kind of laid out basement. The guy. I'll get to that story.
Pretty much. Well, I mean, let's be honest here.
So, yeah. So this character is not supposed to live, right? And so you find out that there's some I don't know, bad people who are trying to get this guy's stash of money or whatever. So we had a monk.
And you still do.
So we had a monk.
Okay.
still, and the monks, she still hadn't died yet. So the monk, there's a room we don't really see in. We know there's some bad people in there, and we know this is where the shopkeeper is being held hostage.
Okay.
So what does the monk do?
Okay.
First level monk. I want to charge into the room. Bold choice. It's in character.
Poke the horse.
I get it.
Pork the horse. I'm the cleric. I'll be over here.
The dead horse. We're gonna be back here. And so I'm like, she's gonna die. Like, she is dead. And so I'm like, what can I do? So I take a gold coin out of my pouch and I chuck a gold coin in there and into the middle of the room, and I yell, "Halt! You know not what you do." And so all of a sudden it's like, okay, where is this going? And so, but all the bad guys stopped. They all stopped. Because I think mostly it's because the DM was like, I don't know where this is going, but let's find out.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, oh, you don't know that we are part of Gravnock's band. I don't even remember what name I made up. I created some evil entity, and that we were his emissaries coming to get this man's gold. And that if these people messed with us, they would be messing with this big, bad, evil thing. And they were like, well, do you know where the money is? Oh, of course I know where the money is. Come with me. And so I have convinced them to follow me out of the room to go get the gold, which we had already stolen because we didn't save the guy first. We took the cash first. And yeah, we made it sound like bounty hunter collectors. Yeah. So we've already got the money. And so we're like, oh yeah, come with us. And then so that way, when they start trooping past the rest of the party, then it's like, okay, now we can attack. And now we can attack now that we have them in our midst.
Yeah.
Not the monk all by herself. So I like doing things like that, and it worked out. It worked out well. But I like doing things like that because it's like I did not use my badassery of combat. Because I'm a level 1 rogue, and I don't have badassery of combat.
Right. That's great.
Why is the
What I
rum
do-
always gone?
Why is the rum always gone? It's because I drank it all. Did you drink it all? Did you get a refill, Poe? Did you get a refill?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I got a refill. I got something else this time though. This one's Shield Egg. The other one was Glenfiddich 12 year. This is a Shield Egg. Just their generic mixed blend.
Nice. Yeah, no, this is still the Kraken.
Kraken. Which is nice. It is nice. Which is nice. We or if you're the author Chris Jackson, he calls it Kraken rum, which infuriates the hell out of me considering like he's super well known for his pirate novels. Like how? Good friend of mine, really good friend, amazing author, one of my closest author friends that I know. But every time he says Kraken, I'm like, don't call it Kraken. You're supposed to be my favorite pirate author novel, and you're calling it a Kraken. I love you, Chris. If you're watching this, you're the best.
So yeah. So as far as character creation, like I want to do a pirate one day. A swashbuckling pirate who's going to have classes of rogue, bard, barbarian, like you know, uh, and not talk like Johnny Depp.
And
That's I guess
no.
do something other than Captain Jack Sparrow.
Right.
But no,
I did Captain Jack Sparrow before Captain Jack Sparrow did Captain Jack Sparrow. One of my oldest characters was from, well, not one of my oldest, but one of my longest running characters was a pirate that I played in 2nd edition D&D. And I played him very similar. His name was Captain Max Dragonfly, was his name. Maxwell Dragonfly, in the Forgotten Realms out of the Sea of Fallen Stars. And I very much played him with like the kind of the Johnny, a little bit of Johnny swagger and a little bit of that. And then of course the movies came out and everybody's like, oh, you're just ripping that off. I'm like, this character's from before that, damn it. And then I was doing wrestling and I incorporated that character into my professional wrestling for a year or two. And then I stopped with that and I started working as a performer at Renaissance festivals as that character. And so it was like multiple stories. So So that's my piratey thing. That's why I have all kinds of pirate stuff on the stream in the background.
Do what you want because a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
That's why. There you go. Thank you for that sound alert.
Yeah, well, Talia and I actually met doing an online pirate MMO game like 17 years ago.
Oh, what game?
Called Puzzle Pirates.
I have not heard of that.
These tiny little pirate dudes with like round heads and no nose. And like if you were on the sails, it was like this ball drop thing that like 2 balls and you had to like rotate them and get them in matching colors and stuff.
Have a good night, Harissa. Take care.
Good night, Harissa. So you'd have a puzzle for the sails. You had a different puzzle for the carpentry, bilge, navigation, loading the cannons, like all that stuff had puzzles.
Yeah.
And that's that. Then you just these little pirates, and Dret was the name of my pirate, and so for the longest time I have wanted to create the Dret the pirate in a D&D form, but every time I think about doing it, it's like it doesn't fit the campaign.
Yeah.
I wanted to play a paladin that was sent to a pirate island as a missionary.
Aww. That wasn't me. That wasn't me. I don't think that was me. I ran a pirate game with that same character later on. I introduced people, and I don't think that was the. Yeah. Now I'm like, am I throwing myself under the bus? I don't remember. Nope, it wasn't me. Okay. Off the hook.
Off the so yeah, someday we'll have to like, you and I will have to get together and do like a pirates only campaign of some kind.
So here's the thing. One of my friends who I had on Off the Pod, the Blind GM, you can find him on TikTok, everyone. He's also here, does a lot of D&D. He's, he gets paid to be a DM from time to time. So all kinds of stuff. He made a campaign, and when we talked about it on Off the Pod, and I was a heavy part of that in the way later part of 3.5, just before Pathfinder came out, and it was called the 10,000 Islands. And he ran the game and wrote an entire campaign setting book for it, more or less, with edits. And I think he said he's recently been working on transferring it to 5th edition. And we have talked about, because I'm like, it's been 15 plus years now. Are you going to do anything with it? Because if not, let me do something with it, because I got the resources. And so now we're talking about working together on getting it done and getting it out there. And so maybe we'll do some 10,000 Island RPG pirate themed. Because most D&D games are like good versus evil, right? That's kind of the thing. Good versus evil. That's not how this is designed. This is designed law versus chaos.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like the general concept that most people have of D&D is like we are the good party, and we are out to get the big bad. But then you end up with players that are complete murder hobos that want to play like, can I play chaotic evil? No. Can I be chaotic neutral? Yes, but only if you don't like actually flay the flesh off of living creatures.
You don't do bad things. Yeah,
because that's evil, and we're not going evil. You can be neutral, but you have to stay neutral.
Yeah, or maybe lean towards good a little bit. Lean towards it a little. You can always usually tell too, like the range of how long people have been role playing based on what they want to do.
Right.
So their experience level based on what they want to do. Usually, not always. Some people just always want to be bad, whatever. And you can also, when you're role playing, because I've played games where you play bad guys, and there's rules you have to follow when you're playing bad guys. Otherwise, they'll all turn on each other in the first game. So you have to. I think that playing bad guys is like you have to have people that are experienced role players that know that you're there to have fun and you're there to be a team and you're not going to turn on each other for the most part. You're not going to have the chaotic evil rogue stealing from the chaotic evil necromancer. You're a team of bad guys doing bad guy stuff. But then you also have to be like, I'm bad guys, but bad guys, what level of bad do you really want to do? Because some stuff is just like, let's not do that. Let's not burn an orphanage down, please. Thank you.
Right.
And by that, that's a tame version. There's way worse things you can do. So it's like,
yes.
So yeah. That's my thought.
It's like Fable, and Knights of the Old Republic. I always played the good scenario first, like my real, like my true
what you would
run
do,
through is max good, and then after I've beaten the game, I can go back and go to the dark side.
Right.
Because
have you started Baldur's Gate yet? Have you started Baldur's Gate yet?
In a word, no. I want to. Actually, it's funny. My daughter was gifted from a friend Baldur's Gate 3, but her laptop can't run it.
Ooh.
It's just doesn't have the go-go juice.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the go-go juice or the memory to run that game. So Talia and I are still planning to do Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 2, and then get Baldur's Gate 3 next year.
So, little insight, the Baldur's Gate 1 and Baldur's Gate 2, they are tied together. Baldur's Gate 3, there are little connections, but it is not a continuation in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
I guess if you follow one path, then you're tied in to the other ones, but it is such a very minuscule series of options you have to take to get there. So, like, if you play 2, it's really weird to play 2 and not play 1. But if you play 3, you could have never touched 1 or 2 ever in your life. So, and there are of course cameos from the first couple of games in the last one. So,
well, and Baldur's Gate 3 should be hitting the Switch this month.
I don't know.
Question mark?
They might. I don't know. Butt kicking for goodness. Thank you, Lyric. Butt kicking for goodness. Give me some Minsk. Just because he's bad guy doesn't mean he's bad guy. Just because he's bad guy doesn't mean he's bad guy.
Bad guy.
Bad guy.
Yeah. So
I probably should have hit the timer this whole time while we're on potluck. It's like, well, it's potluck. It's whatever we want to talk about.
Are we in potluck now?
We might as well start. All right. Okay. So wait, we were just doing I just started the timer. Reading this, and we both did this voice. What's your favorite accents to do, or do poorly? Like, maybe you're not good at accents, but what's one you really like? That's the one I'm doing, or one that you do a lot lately?
So I do a ton of accents. I love doing accents.
Okay.
And so I think it's just there's just like I guess there's just certain scenarios like when I'm doing certain things, certain accents just want to come out for the joke.
Right.
So in Mother Russia, you
Mother
don't
Russia.
drink the vodka, you know.
Yeah.
So there's, you know, when you good Russian mafia, you know,
Yeah.
Mother Russia, you know, up your ass. So I love doing stuff like that. A lot of times you get this one right here. It's sort of a New York, kind of a gruff guy.
Little gangster.
In fact, gangster.
Little gangster.
And when I was in high school, I was in this class. It was called forensics.
I almost feel like you need to be
and
doing
debate.
this while you're talking.
I was in forensics and debate. And so they said you got to do a poem. And I was like, fucking poem. So I gave them this one. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, everyone felt shitty, especially the mouse. With Dad at a whorehouse and Mom smoking grass, I just settled down for a nice piece of ass. Then out on the lawn, I heard such a clatter. I sprang from my beast to see what's the matter. And out on the lawn, I saw this big dick. I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. Down through the chimney like a bat out of hell, I knew in a moment that fucker had fell. He filled all our stockings with pretzels and beer and a big rubber dildo for our brother He rose to the chimney with a thunderous fart. That son of a bitch blew our chimney apart. He cursed and he swore as he rode out of sight. Piss on y'all with a hell of a night.
Very well themed for December, really.
Right. And so I did it in that accent. I'm like 17. Yeah, I think I just turned 17 years old in a class in front of a teacher doing this poem in this accent. And he's a first-year teacher. He does not know how to
react.
Deal with me. He's just like, the rest of the class is all looking at me like, did he just do that? Yes, he did. Did he care about getting kicked out of class? No.
The fact that you didn't get stopped halfway through.
No, that's the thing. Like, I got all the way through the poem. And this teacher's just like, yeah, you think I should give you a grade on this? I'm like, yes. Like, I did it.
Yeah.
You gave me a task. You didn't give me parameters that I had to fall in. You asked for a poem. I got a poem.
It's a poem. There it is. I performed it. Where's my Oscar, damn it? Where's my Oscar?
Well, yeah. So it.
Or is it a Tony? Is it a Tony? Maybe it's a Tony.
Tony. So yeah, there's certain just accents that just want to come out at different times. So it's just, yeah.
Do you ever research, like, when you're doing some like acting or anything? Do you have to sit down and be like, do some phonetics research and find out how, because a Glaswegian accent is different than a
totally
different Scottish accent. I'm like, what's another Scottish region accent? I know them, but I can't think of them.
Yeah, it's, or even the Geordie, which is like not Scottish. It's north England on the border of Scotland.
Right.
So it sounds weird in a near Scottish sound. So once upon a time, I mentioned that I almost died, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
very briefly. Or maybe at least borderline, you told the story about it, but maybe you didn't actually mention that that's what happened.
Yeah, so I almost died. And so I was in the hospital for 17 days. Spent Halloween, my favorite holiday.
Mine too.
In the hospital.
We're like brothers. Jesus Christ.
We are. This is why we've been on this for hours.
Right.
So my son, couple months later, he wants to audition for a musical in Dallas Fort Worth. Theater company was doing Mamma Mia, and at the time he was 17.
Okay.
But he didn't have a driver's license or anything like that. But he wanted to do this show, and the director was a friend of mine who had worked with Hunter in the past as costume designer and some other things. And so, good friend. And so I took Hunter to the audition. And after he does his audition, I pop my head in to say hi to the director. And he's like, Bryan, are you auditioning? No, I just had I had a wound vac.
Yeah.
On, like this thing is literally keeping suction on an open wound. And I had I hadn't even gotten rid of it yet. I still had the wound vac on my belly.
Ow. Sorry.
And he's like, oh, you got an audition? I was like, dude, you think I could do a dance call right now? I am barely alive. You want me to do a dance call? And he's like, well, I mean, you could be one of the dads. They don't really dance. Maybe. He's like, well, can you do Australian? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, would you like to hear my Australian right now? If you'd like, if you don't like this particular type of Australian accent, I'll go on YouTube, I'll do some research, and I'll have a different one for you tomorrow. And they were like, okay, no, that's
good. That's good.
We'll be in touch. So
Nice.
like just dropped on them on the moment, just like, yeah, sure, you want Australian, I'll
Nice.
start.
I'm very much I can't on the fly unless it's something that I do a lot. I can't just pull an accent out of my backside, but I can easily go through, sit down for 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, watch something that's gives me a decent range, listen to it for a little bit and be like, okay, I could pull off a really half-assed version of that right now with whatever I say. So I'm very much, I hear it and I can kind of mimic that to the point where I've gotten in trouble in the past. Actually, I think I warned Talia about this when she was on, that like I morph and I mimic what I'm hearing. So if I'm talking to somebody in a podcast, I will start to slowly shift into an accent and I won't realize I'm doing it. So like when I did the one with Talia, the podcast episode, I literally was sitting there thinking about what I was going to say and making sure that I didn't do that. And I've had to do that a couple of times. I had Heather Harris on recently and I told her the same thing. I was like, by the way, if you start to hear like this accent coming through, I'm not making fun of you. I'm not mimicking. I'm not making a joke. I'm not being funny. I literally, my voice and how I talk will shift based on who I'm talking to. So literally, if you sat here and did that Australian accent this entire night, I'd be talking with an Australian accent too, mate. I'd just be like, yeah. And that's just from what I just heard you do. Like I didn't, like I don't do an Australian accent.
Right. So when I was in my 20s, around the same time I went to Vassar College in New York State and filmed for my apprentice program, I worked at a car rental place by the Kansas City airport. And I was just doing my thing, renting cars, doing my thing. And this guy who was kind of at the back of the line after, like a full shuttle bus had come in and, just trying to get him out as fast as they can. He gets to the front of the line finally. And he looks at me and goes, I have watched you with the customers in front of me. And you have changed your vocalizations, your speech patterns, your physicality with each person. You've matched the person you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at me and goes, I am here in Kansas City as a corporate headhunter for pharmaceutical sales reps. Get your best suit, dust off your resume, you will have a 6-figure income because I'm getting you in front of these people and you are going to make money. And I said, no. God, no, it's not what want to do with my life. He's like,
Right.
are you sure? I'm like, yeah, you know. And at that point, I still had a couple months left before I graduated. And so he's like, yeah, okay, you know, get your degree, but as soon as you're done, and he hands me his business card, and he's like, call me. I am getting you a 6-figure sales job as soon as you graduate. And I was like, like right now, I'm kind of thinking back on it and going, God, that would have been really nice.
Because that's where you would have started. That's not where you would have ended up.
Right. Yeah, right. We're starting at 6 figures.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
maybe out of some different life choices.
I've read a couple novels that were not novels, but like true like personal stories of people that are like retired spies, like the real life versions, and they've actually talked about that was the skill. That was one of the skills almost every single time, every one of their stories. That was the skills that made them as good as they were, or got them through some of the hardest times, was the fact that they could see and they could mimic, and like people would feel like, oh, this person's cool. Like, I'm cool with this person. And just by the way they stand, or they sit, or they slouch, or they move, or their hand gestures, or the movements, or the way that they talk, they kind of match the situation and the person they were talking to, that made that person feel at home, was how they survived. And I didn't even think about that till you just mentioned that with sales. I was like, well, that makes total sense. That makes total sense, because this is what spies have done for years, and they talk about that. And they train them to do that. So yeah.
Yeah, I always thought I'd make a great spy. There was a time in my life where I was like, I bet I could do that. I bet I could do that real well. And then I was going to do a thing, but then I didn't. That's kind of a theme for my life.
Yeah.
I was going to do a thing, but then I didn't. So
Tali says she's very American right now when you're talking. Talking about changing accents, voices.
I actually said this to her the other day, and I'm sorry, because she said something. It was like a whole like sentence, and I was like, oh my God, none of that sounded British. None of it. And she was like, what do you mean? And she got like I think she was like offended for a brief second. Like,
what do you mean I didn't sound?
What do you mean I didn't sound British?
How dare
we always we always tease each other about words that are pronounced differently between the two countries, and the different words we use for things. And it's fun. But she was a kid, when she was a kid, her stepdad at that time was a U.S. Air Force, whatever. He was in the U.S. Air Force. And so she lived in the U.S. for a brief time as a child. And she said that when she came back to England, back to the UK, her classmates didn't believe that she was British because she had an American accent. Because as a kid, she spent that time in the US. Right. So now, if she spends all of her time with me, she sounds really American. And
it would have been really funny if you would have said, she really sounds Australian, just because, just as a throw up as a joke.
And it's funny because we're getting ready to go see her family around Christmas. And I know that she's commented before that they always kind of are like, oh, you sound so American. And then when she's been around them for a little while, she is not going to sound American. Guarantee you, by the time we are done talking to her family, all that British will be back.
Right. That's funny.
So
you ever go in there and be like, I'm just going to use a different accent just to mess with people?
You know, I have done that before. I have actually done that. I don't do it often because I don't want to. You don't want to start something that you have to continue for the rest of your life.
Right.
So I know totally not on the topic of accents, but I know this gal who she's a comedian. She's a stand-up comedian.
Okay.
And so she doesn't use her real name because creeps, you know.
Yeah.
And so she always introduced herself like, because once you've been on stage, or like somebody meets you back by the bar, and she always would introduce herself by her stage name. Well, she starts dating a guy that she met like this after a club gig, and they start dating, and she's never told him
that's not the real name.
That's not her real name. Because you get to a certain point in a relationship where you can't drop that bomb anymore. Like, you can't be, for the last 3 months that we've been dating and, getting together, I have not told you my real name yet. Like, you can't go there. But then this guy is going to take her to meet his family and is going to be introducing her to his family as the wrong name. And she's like, my God, if this relationship continues, the whole family will call me by the wrong name for the rest of my life. So I don't know if that's what made her decide to break up with the guy or something else. I just know that relationship ended at some point.
That's a bad reason. You're like, if you love me, I got to tell you something. Please forgive me. But I didn't know that this was going to happen. Because, worst case scenario, you'd be breaking up anyhow, really. Worst case scenario.
I thought you were going to be a complete sleazebag that I would have to give a fake phone number to, so I never told you my real name. And then even after we hooked up that one time, I thought it was just the one time and I'd never have to talk to you.
And then after 3 months and, we moved in together, I didn't.
Right. We're picking out linens together.
Right.
Oh, I can't pull out my credit card in front of him.
Our child has the wrong last name. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, this is my stepmom's.
Right. Wow. What is the hardest? Since we're talking accents, what's the hardest one you've had to do? Or you had to research a bunch and be like, oh.
So, I think that is probably. I never had to do it on stage.
Okay.
But I had to do it for a class. And it was South African.
Okay.
South African is very difficult. Depending on the character, you have to look at the socioeconomic status and time of when the character is being portrayed. Because the South African accent can heavily be influenced by Dutch.
Right.
So people will be like, oh, South African, that's like a British. It's like, they're not.
Not always, yeah.
They're not the same. They are very different because of that Dutch influence. And then if you have one that would have been more, say, learning Afrikaans before as their primary language and then English, that accent's different entirely again.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to do accents like that. There's also I've gone to see
raid. Gotta raid May. May, how are you? Welcome on in, May. May 7733, guys. Go and check out May doing all kinds of stuff. What were you doing today, May? Get a thing here. Let's get a shouty outie for May. Welcome on in, Raiders. There's May playing Legend of Zelda Tears.
What's the raid song? Is it the chicken attack? I can't sing that song. I'm just gonna sing something else now.
Doing great in Zelda night. That's great. I love it. I love that start to sing and then well, let's no. We're just gonna reverse that. Rewind, zip it, rewind, reverse it.
Right.
Welcome on in May. May's an amazing streamer. Go and check her out. Does all kinds of good stuff, crafting stuff, games, hanging out. I think last time I was there, you were doing some sim stuff. That might have been last month though. That might have been a little bit ago. So welcome on in, May. I hope you're doing well. Thank you again for the raid. If you brought in your people, all the people that came on in. I am Nick. I'm the host of Epic Rums. We do talk shows here on Mondays. Today I am joined by the one and only Poesworth, aka Bryan Douglas. You can go and check out all of his amazing audiobooks on Audible. Also, actor, theater extraordinaire, tabletop RPG legend, and friend of the show. Amazing person. We've just been having a blast here doing the show, and we're just... I paused the timer, by the way, Poe. I paused the potluck timer here.
But 28 seconds left.
28 seconds left. We'll give it a little extra time, too. Love to see you both, Epic and Poesworth, you beautiful beings. Thank you so much, May. Thank you so much for coming in here. Thank you for bringing your community in. I appreciate you very much. I hope you've been doing good. I hope you've been well. I haven't been able to lurk in May streams or hang out in May streams in a little while just because of the way times are lined up with streams. So sometimes I try and at least get a lurk in there, but can't really stop by and say hello. But May's a lot of fun. Really cool gal. Fun to hang out with. A lot of energy. So go and check out May. And I've been following her on some of her Instagram posts and journeys as well. So I like seeing some of the stuff, the conventions and the cosplays and stuff she does as well. It's pretty cool. So go and check it out, everyone. Go and check it out. We're currently talking about, we're onto the topic of potluck, but we might as well have just called it like, I don't know what, voice accents and making funny
the voices that we hear in our heads that you also get to hear.
I don't even remember what were we talking about?
Difficult accents.
Oh yeah. Things that are different. I had a friend. You mentioned South Africa. When I worked at Renaissance festivals, and I didn't know this. I didn't know he was from South Africa. And in fact, there's a college story about it because he applies he applies for college funding, right? And like, he's white as me and you, but he's from Africa, and there's scholarships for African American. He is like, so he applies for it, and then and they're like, wait, what? No, this isn't. He's like, no, this is where I'm from. This is this, and this is that. And so it's made for this really interesting thing, because I never thought of it that way. That like, when you look at the registrations for certain scholarships and what their requirements are, like, they aren't specific because they can't be.
Right.
So, and he doesn't, like, he's just like, I qualify. Like, according to your requirements, I qualify. And so, yeah, one day he's like, well, I'm not from America. I'm like, where are you from? He's like, I'm from South Africa. And the only South African accent, anything I know, is from Lethal Weapon 3, where they say you're from South Africa.
Right.
And so I literally quote that it's in my ear because I've watched that movie so many times. I say it, and he's in a good mood. And I say it, and he goes, don't do that. And I instantly went pale. I was like, sorry. Because I didn't know if he was serious, and I said that, and he was like, don't say that. Don't do that. He was very offended.
That's one of the reasons why I don't just start doing accents in front of people to like, haha, I'll just be funny and I'll just pretend like I'm, okay, sometimes when you're in a Starbucks, you just have to. You have to.
Yeah.
Because they're never going to know.
Right. Never. They're not. Especially when you're
rolling
not
through
in
a drive-through.
Yeah.
Rolling through a drive-through, ordering Taco Bell with an Australian accent. Ugh, fun.
Right.
Oh, do it like the German? Yes, I would like some tacos, please, with some tomatoes.
Extra
we want
onions.
the salsas, very hot. Very hot salsas.
I want some extra onions, please. Sometimes I just do a voice and I don't even know what the influence is. I'm like, I don't know what that voice is. There's just whatever it is. It's there.
Yeah, my random European-esque kind of French.
Yeah. Do you have a drop? Do you have a specific for some of those? And I know the timer's up, but I really got to know when you want to hit a certain for any of the accents or any of the voices. Do you have a certain phrase where you're like, if I say this, it gets me into the accent?
You know, what I do every time I need to use an accent, I will go through the script and I will find my key phrase.
Mm-hmm.
I will always go in and find a key phrase. And if I use that phrase, it should put me back into I'm trying to think of a good example. Charco de la Carretera. Yeah, it was a Spanish Mexico character was supposed to be in Mexico, and so there was one of the Spanish phrases that it was for an audiobook that right now is currently in editing, has not been released yet. But in order to get that accent back in my head, it was called the bowling pool, but the Spanish of it is el charco de la carretera. And so as long as I said that, it would kind of put that Spanish back onto the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
And so that's to get there. So that's what I do a lot of times is find that phrase in the script. Or if it's like a lot of times I'll go onto YouTube and do, research. There's a billion people who will give you how to do an accent. Pretty much any accent you can think of, you can find a video to teach you how to do it. And one of the things that they always tell you is it's about finding those vowel sounds and word endings. Because if you can get those two things, the rest of the accent will actually just pretty much take care of itself.
And fall in place, yeah.
And if it's not quite, then that's you're gonna still carry through, even if it's the rest of it's not perfect, because the suggestion of it's there.
There's a he's not this is funny, this is gonna bring us kind of full circle. There is, and this is gonna bring us full circle to what we talked to before the show even started, but there is a performer, and he did impersonations on YouTube for the longest time. And I had a character that's coming back from a tabletop RPG known as Curse of the Crimson Throne, and he's from Brevoy, and he's kind of got like a Russian-y type accent, because I had a miniature. It started with a miniature. I see the miniature, I'm like, I'm going to build this character. And it was a merchant. It was just like this generic merchant. I'm like, nope, this is an alchemist. He's holding not a thing he's going to sell, but he's got a bomb, and he's an alchemist, and I'm going to build this alchemist. I'll have this mini I found that's really cool, whatever. And he's got like this, he's bald, he's got this giant mustache, and he's got a little bit of a belly, and I'm like, this guy's got a Russian accent. I don't know how to do a Russian accent. And I found this guy, and he does all of these impersonations. He's an impersonation performer, and he'll go into Fortnite, but he'll play the entire game as a president. Name your president of choice. Or he'll go in there, and he did one where he just did this Russian accent the entire time. So I just saved that video of him doing a Russian accent. And I just like listened to that, and because it was just so spot on to what I wanted to do. Whether it was accurate or not, I didn't care. It was fun, and that's kind of how I wanted to do it. And then I watch all of his other stuff too, and he would do Fortnite, and he's like he'd do Cleveland from Family
Guy.
Family Guy, yeah, he'd do Cleveland from Family Guy, and that would be what he would do in these impersonations or whatever. Later, the guy that did Cleveland, after the George Floyd stuff, said, I'm not doing this role anymore because it should go to somebody who's ethnically correct. Because it was a white guy that was doing Cleveland. He didn't want to do it anymore. And so Azers is the name, guys. Azers is his name. He's a performer. He actually is, so he did these impersonations. He got hired for the role, and he now does the voice of that. And I'm like, that is super cool. That's super
amazing.
cool that the guy that did the impersonation, just for fun, because of his YouTube video, got hired to play the character in the show now. So yeah, full circle, because earlier before we started, circle. you did a little voice, and I was like, that sounds kind of like Cleveland.
Right, and it wasn't intended to be.
No.
And it's interesting because Hank Azaria stopped doing some of the character voices on The Simpsons because he's like, in light of a better understanding of what is appropriate, not appropriate, he could not do some of those characters anymore, particularly Apu.
Yeah.
You know, in the convenience store, and it was funny because I used to do a lot of accents like that for the funny.
Yeah.
You know, and so a lot of times I look at my accents and I have to kind of pull back just kind of bring back into the back of my head, dude, you're not ever going to do that accent again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there really is never going to be a reason.
Yeah. There's no appropriate thing. It's, in this day and age, that is super tone deaf. Yeah.
And I've got a really good friend who does a lot of work with Crunchyroll, Funimation, used to be Funimation, now Crunchyroll, doing US anime dub, and he's Filipino, and so as somebody of the Pacific heritage, him being able to kind of speak to what it means, for him to be able to be representative or represented in the voice world, that because for me, for a long time, I was always like, hey, doesn't matter what you look like behind the voice, it's about the voice,
right? And
now I it's like, no, just because I can do a voice doesn't mean I should.
Right. Yeah.
It's that great debate of, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right. I totally agree.
So I try to be careful about when and where I throw out accents, even, Scottish or Irish or, German, whatever that accent may be. My D&D characters, they will end up with all kinds of accents just because, like, why wouldn't they? Like, especially if you're DMing.
Yeah.
Like, not every bar, not every tavern keeper's going to, well, welcome in there, adventurers.
Yeah. They're not all dwarves.
Right.
Dwarves don't all have Scottish accents, guys. God damn it, knock it off.
You're going to go into the mines of Maria. What? Yes, that is every dwarf ever played.
Yep.
In fact, so I just finished recording one of Talia's books. It was based on a D&D campaign, and she had wrote this series, and she's got 3 books out, and she's going to write the 4th one next year, and getting the proof back. But as soon as I read that there was a dwarf cleric in the list of characters, my name's Thorgrim, and of course this is how I'm gonna do the dwarf cleric, because that's what you're gonna do. Like, every person who's ever played a dwarf cleric, that's the voice. That's the voice, and it's always gonna be the voice.
There you go, everyone. There you go. That's a preview. Spoiler.
That's a preview.
Spoiler. I hear the lawsuits coming already. Jesus Christ.
Well, fortunately, I know the rights holder on that one, so
that's good. Put in a good word for me, I guess. I don't want to get in trouble.
I'll apologize when I go into sneak into the bedroom later.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, everyone, thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you, of course, Poesworth, aka Bryan, for joining us here for Off the Pot. I appreciate you. Let's talk a little bit about what you have coming up, stuff you got coming up, projects you got going on, things like that. Tell us where people can find you, all of that. Tell us.
Okay.
Give us some insights.
It's funny. I actually just did a play reading online of Peter Pan.
Okay.
But I was one of the kids. I was the younger boy.
Okay.
Michael, because there's a group called Plague Mask Players that they do play reads of Shakespeare and other classics. And I've now done 26 play reads with them. they basically.
You sound like you're asking me. I don't know. I can't answer that for you.
No, it's processing out loud.
Yeah, no, I know. But it was more funny if I acted like you were asking me.
So, the way they cast these things, they'll put a post on a private group on Facebook.
Okay.
And the first X number, like first 16 people who claim a spot are in the show. And then the casting is done through one of several different methods. Random name generator, which means everyone's name goes in the pot. And have I been a woman? Yes. Have I been an old, gypsy woman? Yes. Was I ugly as fuck? Yes. But it's because they don't care about who fits the part by, standard type. They're not going to cast like you would cast a stage performance. So people getting opportunities to play roles that they would never get to play otherwise. And then sometimes it's the whole cast will do a survey, like who do you think should be in the roles, and whoever gets the most votes for each role, they'll put them in those roles. So there's a lot of those Plague Mask players that have been posted to YouTube. They have 3 years worth of these shows now.
Nice.
So I just finished that one, and like I said, there's 26 of them that you can hear me. You can find me in those particular groups.
What do they have to Google search to find that?
Plague Mask Players.
Plague Mask
And
Players.
If you put that into a YouTube search engine, you will find a long list.
PlagueMaskPlayers.org.
Bam! And if you look on there somewhere, I am listed as one of the platinum players, which means I have done 25 or more of
Do what you want, 'cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
Yar. Hard diddly dee.
Which is funny because as Michael, as the little kid, I turned down a chance to be a pirate.
Yeah.
Because Captain Hook tries to get me to swing that over to the dark side.
You didn't want to play Captain Hook?
Dude, I totally wanted to. Buddy of mine got cast in that role instead, and I was like, no, that was the right call.
Yeah.
He totally nailed it. He killed it. He's fantastic Hook. So there's that. I am on Audible, and I will have two more books by the talented and lovely Talia Beckett. And I will be those will be on Audible, like I said, early in the next year, January. I write her newsletter now.
Ooh, but not your own. Not your own. We've established that. You're like, I don't want to have a newsletter, Dan. Even though you've got people asking you for a newsletter website. Come on,
get the website. You know what's funny? All the theater jobs I've ever had, I think I put in a resume once. Like, I have done lighting design, set design, sound. I never put in a resume anywhere anymore. People are all like, "Hey, we need a guy. You available?
You're the guy.
You're the guy. I'm told you're the guy." No, sometimes I am, but not anymore. So now that I'm kind of moving away from that, I do have to now do that next step of being a professional performing artist of some kind. I have to have a place where you can sample and see the good things that I do.
Right, all of the things.
So that'll happen. I just don't have it yet. Yeah, I'll be starting to stream again on Twitch. Which, like I said, that had to do a little bit of a hard pause. Partly because I still kind of got to be careful about, I am not allowed to work in the UK.
Right.
Because I don't have a visa to live here. I'm a visitor. I am here visiting my fiance, and I will be going back to the US because that's where I live.
Right.
Technically. But so I kind of have tried to be very careful about where I say I'm working from, and if I feel like being a Twitch streamer makes this like my office, this is my place of work. I feel like there's a little bit of a gray area that I have to be careful about. Recording in this little booth and uploading to a US website, I don't feel bad about. Like that is, I get paid in the US.
Well, because you're working remotely. You still work from the US.
Remotely.
You're just working remotely.
Yeah, working remotely. So I get a little bit, with Twitch, I just don't want to push that boundary.
Yeah.
So, that's it. I'm on Instagram as Poesworth. Bryan Douglas on Facebook, though you probably won't see much about me on there because I don't post very often. Yeah, this whole social media and being accessible to people, not really a thing.
Shoot me a message. I'll set you up. I'll get you set up. I'll help you out.
Thanks, man. Hey, if you want to buy me a beer anywhere, this is for anyone who's listening. Just tell me what city you're in, or if you'll ever be here where I am. We'll talk all day, all night. I will tell you everything there is to know about everything, and that's how I typically find people, and they find me.
Yeah, cool. And
that doesn't help anyone.
For those that are curious, there may or may not be something else role-playing wise in the works. We hammer out details. I won't say anymore. Hey, who's your favorite Captain Hook?
Who's my favorite Captain Hook?
Yep.
I don't know. It's Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman. He's second for me. Second place for me.
Who's your first?
Malfoy. Jason Isaacs. Jason Isaacs.
I changed my answer. Jason Isaacs. I forgot. Yes.
He was so amazing. He was an amazing Hook.
Yes.
Loved him. The theater people bring me lights sometimes with broken mounts to weld back on. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here like, did I kill this guy?
Did this kill a guy? Right? And that is why we have safety cable as well.
Yeah, and plus the cord, right? The cord that holds the light that you have to have plugged in. So if the mount breaks, then the light just swings there. You don't have to worry too much. Unless the light comes unplugged on its own, and then...
Oh my God! No, I have seen plenty.
The worst you have to worry about is somebody getting a gel to the eye,
Right. Yeah, it's when it goes like this and the gel frame falls out and like stabs somebody in the head.
Right. Hold on, one more. Hey, cheers! By the way, cheers.
Oh, cheers.
Clinky, clinky. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. We'll have to do more stuff in the future. I know we've got chats in the works, and I know we're going to have Talia on this show down the road. She doesn't know that yet, but I'm sure she'll come on. So she'll come on off the pod at some point as well, and we'll just have a fun old time. Maybe it'll be 2 for 1. We'll have you both on at the same time behind the same camera, and then I'll just sit here and watch how fun you guys are hanging out together like the good old days. So
yeah, we're a little crazy.
They are. You guys are amazing. So... I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being part of the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Is there anything else you want to mention before we go?
Keep being awesome, everyone. That's it.
There we go. We're going to write out to my good friend, Midwest Miniature Painting Guy. Or it's just Midwest Mini Guy on here. He's like the Bob Ross of miniature painting. So just sit back, chill, relax, and watch him paint D&D minis. He's an amazing guy, and if you like his stuff, you can hire him to paint your minis, or your mugs, or your tapestries, or your Castle of Grayskull repaint. Whatever you want, you can hire him to do your work. So guys, thank you so much for being here. We will be back tomorrow. We're going to be playing a new game on stream tomorrow. We're going to be a little fox running around with a spirit fox as our guide. It's a lot of fun, I guess. I hear it looks amazing. I haven't played it yet. I've downloaded it, so that'll be the first new one. Also, later this week, we're going to be doing some beta games. We've got Ars Notoria in beta that we've got access to, and we've been given the okay to stream it by the creators, so that's going to be later this week. Of course, we've got D&D on Wednesday, all the D&D stuff. And of course, let me look at my calendar here. Who do I have? Oh, that's right. Andrew Valkoskis from the Fate of the Norns Viking RPG system. Andrew Valkoskis is going to be joining us for the podcast on Monday. So you definitely don't want to miss that, because it's just in time to talk about Vikings during Christmas, because Odin is Santa Claus. Right? Everybody knows that. Odin is
Not
Santa
wrong.
Claus, right? So I'm like, is he disagreeing with me? Don't disagree with me. Don't disagree. Okay, maybe.
I'm not.
All right, guys, have a good one. We're rating on out. Take care. Use my raid emotes. Use your raid emotes. Use anybody's raid emotes. I don't care. Just make yourself represented. Say hello to the one, the only Midwest Mini Guy. For Poesworth, I am Nick. Thank you all so much, and keep being awesome, everyone.